Good night, everyone, and welcome again to the Hall and Headley show. And I'm Headley, and that's Hall.
Good night.
And tonight we have another great show tonight, man. At least I think it's going to be great. At least inside me, there's a buzz, Sean. We talked about this earlier, and I got this buzz for some reason. I don't know. It's because I was busy all day. And they're busy like bees, so I'm buzzing, or is it something else? I
I
feel there's something else going on.
I think we're getting the after effects of Leroy Trotman last week. He's still sending tremors through this show. I mean, it was an amazing show last week with Leroy. All the guests so far have been amazing. Roger Field, Jim Bannon, Steve Lim, and Rocco Boeing. The Rock is in town. Don't forget that. The Rock is in town to ride this weekend. Coolmore, he has a horse he's riding for me. And he has three other rides, so you can look out for your rock. But the excitement, I don't know, things are blooming so far in Hall and Headley's land.
You mean in Hall Line, like Eagle Hall, Bush Hall, Bank Hall, Overhaul, like so
Oh
much
Lord.
halls. Hey, listen, man. Perhaps it's the cool more that's what's happening. Perhaps
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
jockeys in town. Perhaps it's the excitement. So hang on before we get Chris on the show. So the cool more is that replacing the Gold Cup.
Yes, because the Gold Cup usually will be this weekend here, so they decided to run the Coolmore, which was the prep race for the Gold Cup. So it's
Hmm.
now, well, it's not the Tanglewood is now the bigger race because that's $70,000 purse, which the Coolmore is only 50 plus subscriptions. But for the top class horses, I should say.
I see. I see. Well, we can talk about that a little bit more as we go on. But right now it's all about Mr. Chris Griffith. So let's welcome Mr. Chris Griffith to the show. Welcome, my brother.
How you doing,
Hey,
Chris?
what's going on, guys? Everybody good?
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
man.
Well, Sean, before we start, right? You're talking about Leroy and some of the other guests, and that I want to give a disclaimer right now. I can't talk for 3.5 hours like Leroy. Leroy, Leroy is an agent. Them agents like to talk. Yeah, I ain't got 3.5 hours to talk. So let
Listen,
me let me get that out of the way right now. And
but
I will tell
but
my
hey,
story.
y'all,
No
Chris,
problem.
I
you
gotta
have
tell
a
my story. I don't know if it's as good as Roger. Roger almost get kidnapped by gypsies and all kind of things. Y'all giving me some, I don't know. I don't know if I got the stories like the talk or the stories like them like.
Listen, is that glasses I see you wearing?
Well, I wasn't gonna put them on, but I see both of y'all wearing the glasses. So I said, well, maybe this is part of the show, and maybe I have to wear the glasses.
I like that. I like that.
Well, it means that you're getting a little mature there, sir. You're
Yeah,
getting a little
you,
mature.
you could call it mature. You're trying to be very politically correct, but we getting old.
But I think Chris is a natural for this type of environment. I don't know
Oh
what he's
yes.
talking about, but he can't break this record and all this kind of stuff.
You might
But you
talk
got
for
you got a
five
natural
hours.
thing.
I just want to get the disclaimer out of the way, but I don't want to expect me in the 3.5 hours.
Well,
Oh
Chris,
man.
you know what this show is about. This show is about your journey so far in your life.
All right,
You
yeah,
all know you came from Barbados all the way to Canada, became a champion multiple times out for area racetrack. Not only that, you're the most winningest jockey at Fort Erie racetrack also. Tell us about your story, my brother.
all right. Well, I feel my story should start the same place that every other single Barbadian since the 80s that went to Canada should start. My story started with my brother Ricky.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for Ricky, me, you, Patrick, nobody else would have
It's
had the
true.
success having in Canada, right? So get that out of the way. So I just started riding in Barbados when Ricky went to Canada in '87, right? Just finding my way, bug boy, just learning. And Ricky kept telling me I should come to Canada, and I did not want to go because at the time, I was just starting to get a little bit of traction. Back then, Bert was the man. Bert was a dominant trainer, and I started getting some horses for him, and I felt like maybe I could have been next in line. So I really didn't want to leave Barbados at all. And Ricky basically just kept pressing me to come, and I said, okay, I'm gonna come. I had this plan. I can go for 6 months, get polished, you know, tighten up the skills a little bit, and go back to Barbados. Well, that 6 months turned into was like 34 years now. So it's 6 month plan get extended. It was like a work permit. It just keep getting extended, right? So long story short, I was only coming for a short stint, and it just I fall in love with the place, Fortery in particular, and I just really at that time I make a decision I was going to stick it out for a while. And actually, it was funny.
No, like your craft though. Did you learn more your craft in Barbados, or you really developed it when you got to Canada?
I would have to say I learned more up here, because when I left Barbados, Sean, like I'd only win 5 races. Yeah. Like I left Barbados, when I left to come here, I'd win 5 races. When you win 5 races, you don't know what the hell you're doing. There's so much to learn. And especially in Barbados, where you're riding once a week. When you're a bug boy, your learning curve is supposed to be like this, but in Barbados it's slow because it's once a week.
Yes.
If you're lucky, you get in 4 or 5 rides. You just can't learn that quickly. I mean, even up here, it takes years to really become what I consider like a polished rider. It takes years. And in Barbados, that time just get extended because it's only racing once a week. Whereas, I mean, when I had my bug in 88 and 89, when I got rolling, I was riding 7 days a week. I was riding at Woodbine and Fort Erie, and back then there was racing. You could ride every day. Right. Fort Erie was from Saturday to Tuesday, and Woodbine used to go from Wednesday to Sunday. So really, you could ride every day of the week, and that's what I used to do. So I learned most of my stuff up here, right? Wow. And so when I came up, Ricky set me up with the agent that he had.
Yes.
Right. So once I get my papers and stuff like that, we started going to the track. He took me to Woodbine a little bit, and then to Fort Erie. But by then, Ricky had kind of had his foot in the door at Fort Erie. So I noticed right away the difference between Woodbine and Fort Erie. I noticed right away, even with my agent, just the way he's more relaxed at Fort Erie. We had more business. So I started at Fort Erie, right?
Yes.
And it's funny because I remember the first time I ride was the first week in June of 88. And it was 15 degrees Celsius, which up here to the Canadians, they're in shorts. But to me, I just went to Barbados, and I remember the record low in the time at Barbados was plus 17.
Yeah.
I remember I walk out to the walking ring, and I shivering, Sean. I cold because now we go on these breeches, like you ain't wearing nothing, right?
Yes.
And I shivering. And the trainer that I rode for, his name was Herbie McGurry. He put me on my first horse. He put his arm around me, and he's like, don't worry, son. Like, you just relax. Don't be nervous. I said, boss, I ain't nervous. I cold. I was freezing, right? I went back to the job. So I rode. I don't remember when I finished. I didn't win the first. I went back to the job. So I tell Ricky, I said, this is some BS. I said, I'm going back to Barbados here. I said, I can't do this, right? I said, I ain't riding on this. That same week, I ended up winning a few races. When I get my paycheck, I call all my boys. I call, my close friends, Ted Holder, Neil Brewster, Dean Springer, Still Oliver. I called them and said, listen, I ain't coming back to Barbados here. So I get that first paycheck. I said, I ain't coming back. I said, I don't care how cool it get. I'm sticking it out, right? And that's how I kind of started. And I ended up that first year, 88. I ended up having a good meet at Fort Erie, gained some traction. And my agent at the time, which was Ricky's agent, he was doing the split thing between Woodbine and Fort Erie. And he really wanted to, he wanted to go to Woodbine. He wanted to go to Woodbine. Ricky was doing it back and forth. Then I started doing it back and forth. And so now when 89 roll around, and we're kind of mostly at Woodbine. And it's a funny thing, Sean, because But like before I came to Canada, I was in horse racing my whole life. My father,
Yes.
jock, everything from Brennan's Hill, everything is horse racing. And my whole life growing up, I never heard nothing about Woodbine or Fort Erie.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. Are you serious?
We used
Yes.
to hear about Belmont,
Mhm.
Gulfstream, Kentucky, tracks in England. I never
Mhm.
growing up, I never heard about it. There was never any talk about Woodbine or Fort. I had no idea about these places. So now I come up here and I start getting this vibe like everybody telling me like I had a good first year at 40 and everybody telling me, oh, you go to Woodbine. But I'll be honest, Sean, we get to Woodbine in 89 and I was like, something missing here.
Mhm.
Something missing because my first impression is like, I'm not saying it because it's my brother. They had some good decent writers at Woodbine. Sandy
Mhm.
Holly was there, Hall of Famer. Sandy was killing it, right? But then I look around and I really start to look and I start wondering to myself, why Ricky? Why is it that Ricky not one of the top two, three writers here?
Mhm.
I said from everything that I know, I was a jockey aholic. I studied jockeys by the time I was 12, and from everything I know, I said there's nobody in this room that I could say is a better writer than Ricky. And I'm just like, why is he not? Why is he not doing better? I was still a bug, so I could
Mhm.
understand. I still learning. I said, but
Yeah.
there's something here that something missing. So I trying to like figure out. You're trying to feel your way around, get the vibe, like. But like I'm like, I can't say there's anybody in this room at Woodbine, not a single writer that I could say that person is a better writer than Ricky.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I started to say, okay, well, there's obviously more to learn about this business because obviously talent alone is not it. Because if it
Yes.
was talent alone, it should be Sandy and Ricky. Like I said, they had some other good writers.
Mhm.
They had good writers, Dose, Robbie King, Platts. Them guys, they're good writers, but I can't say that they was better than Ricky, and I couldn't
Ricky.
figure out why. Ricky already, he's winning a bunch of races just down the road at 40. Why is he not doing any good, right?
Yes.
So that was an eye opener for me. But another thing I also noticed when I first come was being a writer up here is a business. It's different than back home.
Mhm.
Um, growing up back home, I think Venice had a house. I know Charlie had a house. I didn't know no other writers that had a house in Barbados. And I noticed when I come up here, even the guys at 40 that weren't really doing good, everybody had houses, had cars.
Mhm.
And I start to, you see a different side of the business. I realized there was a lot to learn. Like, and then it's just
Mhm.
a total different level of like opportunity to
Yes.
actually make a real living. Whereas
Yes.
Barbados, I mean, for as much fun as racing in Barbados, it's fun, as much fun as you could have. But for a writer, it's it is a dead end. It's a
Yeah.
Mhm.
dead end. You can't if you have any ambition to own, have a good life, have your own house, this and that. Even to this day, I mean, I never been there for a long time, but I don't even know how many writers in Barbados own homes or, like have a decent life. So there's like I said, it was different, right? So back to this story anyway. So 89, I start opening my eyes a little more, trying to figure out what does it take to make it here because
Mhm.
it's not just talent. So, we go every day, you work, you try to hustle. You can only work as hard as people allow you. If you go into a guy barn and say, hey, you want me to get on a horse? Okay, like I give that another difference from Woodbine to Forgery. Most of the guys at Woodbine, especially back then, they had their own exercise riders. They didn't really need a jockey that much to help them out. Whereas like at Forgery, lesser money, owners paying less. So if a rider come and offer you to get on a horse for free, they'll probably let you. That was a way into the barn. Whereas I find
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
Woodbine, if you go to one of the big outfits, they got all their exercise riders. They don't need you. So even if you want to work hard, you can only work hard if they allow you to work hard.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So, some people think that a guy might not be doing well because he don't like to work, but sometimes it's hard to work if somebody not giving you the opportunity to work.
Mhm.
So we kept at it, and I started getting a little traction when I had the bug. We went to Greenwood. I had a good, actually, Laurie, if you remember, so Vera put me on some winners in the spring at Greenwood, and
Yes.
it helped me get a little bit of momentum. And then when we come to Woodbine, I started doing well, and Ricky was doing well too, actually. And At the time, I think I was like 7th or 8th in the standings when I had with my bug.
Yeah.
I got hurt. I got hurt. It was probably like May or June early, and I got hurt, and I was done until November, right? And when I come back, my business that I was starting again, it dried up, and I was like, oh shit, right? So Sandy Holly, actually, it's a funny story about Sandy because remember how I was saying like I couldn't figure out why we weren't doing better, especially
Yeah.
Ricky. You know, Ricky was already polished. Ricky was a champion when he left Barbados, right?
Yeah.
And Sandy Holly, who I used to talk to from time to time, trying to pick his brain. Sandy come to me one day and said, you know, if I was a trainer, you and your brother would ride in all my horses. And for me, it was a validation because I felt like, okay, so I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong about what I'm saying. Because if Sandy's saying the same thing, there's obviously some talent level that the talent is there, but there's something missing where the success wasn't tied to the talent, right? Like I said, especially for Ricky, he was already polished. I was still a bug, still learning. But anyway, so my year was basically done, right? So
Before you go any further, Chris, so I want to ask you this because you know, like in cases like that, sometimes people would get discouraged and run away. Were you discouraged or were you encouraged to work harder? Not that you weren't working harder, but to just kind of like push a little harder to see what's
I,
going
I
on here.
was I was discouraged and frustrated. That 89 was the start. When I got hurt and come back and I realized I couldn't get my business back, that's where my discouragement and frustration started. But it didn't really my frustration didn't really reach a high level yet. Back to Sandy. After my year was basically finished, like I come back in November, race is gonna be done in December. I can't gain no traction deck. So Sandy asked me if I'd be interested in going to Maryland. And I said, well, why? He said, well, he knows somebody there. It's just a small outfit. But Sandy said, I think you should go there for the winter. It could help you learn, right? I said, well, I'm not going to turn down an offer that Sandy Holly making a suggestion to me to go. So instead of going back to Barbados, I said, okay, I'll go. But I went to this trainer. You only had like 8 or 10 horses. But I tell you what, when I get there, that jock's room was a powerhouse jock's room. It was Kent Desorme, and that was the year. I think it was the year. I know Kent. Pretty much every year he was winning 500 something races. It was Kent.
He was at in Maryland too.
Kent started at Laurel. That's where he started.
Oh, okay.
So I get there and I said, this jock's room. I remember calling my agent Bruce Cornell, and I said, Bruce, these guys here are some serious riders. I said, this is a tough jock's room. I said, Bruce, there's a guy here named Edgar Prado. And I'd never heard of him until I went to Maryland. I said, Bruce, this guy is as good as anybody I ever seen on a horse. And Bruce was like, Edgar Prado, I never hear about him. I said, I never hear about him either. But if there's any racing gods at all, you can hear about this guy because this guy can flat out ball. This guy's a rider. And of course, now everybody know who Edgar Prado is. But
Yeah.
it was, like I said, it was Edgar, Kent Desorme, Mike Luzzy was there, Willie Martinez, Mario Pino. Like the jock room was just full of good riders. And I stayed there for 2 months, and I learned more in the 2 months I was there. I think I went like 5 or 6 races in the 2 months I was there, but I just rode just for that one trainer, right? So I wasn't riding like every day or whatnot.
Yeah.
So, but in that 2 months that I was there, I learned more in the 2 months than the whole year I had out riding in Canada because it was just a different kettle of fish, different ball game, right? So that gave me some excitement. I decided I want to go back to Canada because one of the things for me is as I went on in my career, I started to realize I wasn't going to be happy living where I want to ride instead of riding where I want to live. So when I was in Maryland, even though I really liked the racetrack, I used to leave the track, go back to I was staying with the trainer, stay in the house all day. Laurel was kind of between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, which at the time that was the end of 89, that was the murder capital of North America. So I never used to go anywhere, right? So other than the racing, I was not having fun. I wasn't enjoying it. I was enjoying the track, but then after that, it's back home, right? So, but after feeling like I got that much better riding, I said, I'm going to go back to Toronto And in my head, I'm thinking everybody gonna see how much better I got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it don't work that way, right? So I get back, go to Greenwood in '90, and again, Laurie put me on some horses, but I had a guy named Ray Lawrence. You know Ray Lawrence, Sean.
Yeah, I know, Ray.
He was really my only support, and he put me on
Mm-hmm.
some horses at Woodbine, at Greenwood. And we won a bunch of races at Greenwood, and again, I'm thinking, well, people can see how I improve,
Mm-hmm.
and once we get back, from Greenwood to Woodbine, business should carry on.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating because it didn't. It
Mm-hmm.
was like nobody noticed, right? And then I started getting on some horses for Franz Cream, and he had a 2 year old. That I tell you, he had me excited. That 2 year
Mm-hmm.
old. First time I rode him, he won, and for fun, I was so excited. I remember I rush out of the judge room. I get dressed, put on my clothes, half wet, and rush back to the barn. I was gonna go see Franz because I was so excited about this horse, and we kind of knew going into the race that he was okay, but then the way he
Yeah.
ran, it was like holy, like
It was
he's
better than okay.
better than okay. So now I'm thinking, because I always felt in my head, I need a good, like, so when people aren't
Good horse.
noticing me winning just regular races, I need to find a good horse. The only way to find a good horse, I'm not going to get a good horse from a good barn. I got to find one that's new. So I started hunting 2 year olds. And that was one of them. I rushed back to the barn, so excited, all these thoughts in my head. I get back to the barn, I see Franz sitting in his car with his head down. I said, what's going on? By the time the horse get back to the barn, I don't remember what it was that he had done. He never raced again. So
What?
again, I went from the high back down to
Wow.
the low. I was like, shit. Like, it just seemed like, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? So now the year carrying on and nothing really exciting happening, but I still hunting 2 year olds, right? And our good friend Sean, Katie O'Connor,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I started getting on some horses for her. And I got on a 2 year old one morning named Mystery Ruler. And I was like, okay, this one, he could be that kind of horse too. And he was actually my first stake winner in Canada. Like his
That's
first
right.
stake winner at Woodbine. So I rode him first time out. He went for fun. Like, I mean, like he was a good horse, right? Um, he was off with a minor injury. He come back off the injury, maybe not fully cranked up. He ran second. Then I rode him again and won a stake. Impressive, right? So now that was towards the end of the year. And I thought, like, okay, so this could be my horse. This could be a horse that could propel me into, you know, a little bit more of the spotlight. I get in this story just to talk about the highs and lows of racing. Right? So he won the stake. I think it was like in September, and they put him away for the year, and they're going to bring him back as a 3 year old. And I remember I liked that horse so much that I left Barbados and flew to Payson Park in Florida just to breeze him when he was going to breeze, right? And I went and I breezed him, and he breezed fantastic, right? And I was like excited, right, for races to start at Woodbine. And again, the highs and lows are racing. I want the last I won a stake on him. They put him away. I went to breeze him. That's the last time I sit on that horse. All of a sudden, he was too fast for me. It wasn't Katie's. I know it wasn't Katie's doing, so I would never hold it against her. But the owners are from the States. They don't know who Chris Griffith is. And that. Long story short, somebody else ended up riding the horse. Actually, rest in peace, Dave Penna rode the horse.
Okay.
And he came to me before he was going to ride the horse. He said, they're asking me to ride that horse. I said, yeah, I know it was coming. Katie kind of gave me the heads up that the owners were trying to make a change, blah, blah, blah. And he rode it, and it won. And I think that was the last time that horse raced too. But I just trying to show, the highs and lows. You think you're making traction, and then you get, the rub game. And the hardest thing about being a jockey is that it's not an individual sport. You need so much help around you. It don't matter how good you are. If you don't have the right people on the most important thing is the opportunity. If you don't have the right opportunity, it don't matter what your talent level is. You're not going anywhere. So a lot of times you feel like, you're beating your head against the door and blah, blah, blah. But I always remember when Penna told me he was getting the mount, right? He said, Chris, I'm gonna ride this horse. It's probably gonna win. I said, yeah, he's gonna win because I had breezed him. I know he was ready to win. He said, I want you to remember this lesson. He says because in this game, there's no loyalty. He said when your turn comes, don't feel sorry for anybody. I said, okay. But there's always things along the way that people say to me, like like what Sandy said to me about if he had horses. There's always things that stay with me or click with me, and that was one of the things. I remember Dave telling me that. I said, I will remember that. When he said, when your time comes, don't be afraid. When you're the guy that replacing somebody else, don't be afraid to do it because look what happening to you now. I said, okay, I will remember that. Right. So that was 91, and that was a bleak year. It was a struggle. I didn't really want to be, I was at Woodbine, between Woodbine and Ford. Just strong, can't find any traction at all, right? I could say I started to get, that was the more frustrating year for me, 91, because I had come back from Maryland thinking I get so much better. And even like the guys that were writing me when I had my bug, when I really didn't know what I was doing, all of a sudden they want to put me on a horse. And I was like, you putting me on a horse when I was an apprentice, not really knowing much. And now that I get better, you don't want to give me a ride. So then you get to realize they was riding me 5 pounds more than they were riding me. And, that kind of thing is like a little blow. As an athlete, if you don't have an ego, you're probably not going to do any good. So when you get a little blow to your ego, it would bug you, right? So I say, okay, 91 was bad, right? Like nothing happened. I win some races, but I kept feeling like I'm not getting what I should be getting, right? So I went back to Barbados and winter 91, started 92, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna stay in Barbados for a while and figure out exactly what I want to do. And I rode most of the year. I rode in Barbados. I went back to Fordery a couple of times, but I spent most of the year in Barbados that year. And towards the end of the year, I think I was talking to me and Dean tight. Me and Dean, Dean always talk. Dean's like a brother with me, right?
Dean, what's the last name?
Dean Springer. Dean Springer.
Dr. Dean Springer. Let's give him his thing. Dr. Dean
Springer. Remember what Leroy said, right? We gotta
Dr.
Dean, the whole name, the full name.
He's in my head now. He's in my head. Dr. Dean Springer, please.
He got different titles. He's Dr. Dean, he's Commentator Dean, he's Owner Dean.
No, but we're going to talk. We're going to talk.
Okay.
Dr.
Not everyone knows.
So I remember talking to Dean. I said, I know why I'm not doing any good. I said, Dean, I can go back to Canada. But I figured out why I was not doing any good. Because by the time I get to Canada and I started doing well with my buck, everybody telling me, oh, you should be at Woodbine, you should be at this, you should be at that. And honestly, Sean, I like Woodbine, like the track. This is similar to what happened to me when I was in Maryland. Woodbine's a great facility, good horses, good money, but it just wasn't. I didn't have the vibe. Woodbine, for lack of a better explanation, Woodbine don't mean anything to me. But I kept going there because everybody told me, oh, you should go to Woodbine, you should do that. And I said to Dean, I'm going back to Canada. I'm going to Fort Erie. I'm going to ride at Fort Erie because that's where I always wanted to live in Fort Erie. I said, I am done riding. I am done living where I ride in. I want to ride where I want to live. And I want to ride where I can have opportunity. And Fort Erie was the answer to both them questions. I want to live in Fort Erie, and I know I can get opportunity if I stay there consistently. I said, Dean, I can go back to Canada, and I go into Fort Erie, and I stay in that Fort Erie. So I come back in 93. And I remember, Sean, when we used to first come to Canada, getting a work permit was, you didn't even worry about it. I used to wait till the week before races and go down. Remember, we used to go downtown and 15 minutes to get the paper signed, and it's easy.
That easy.
It used to be real easy. You'd be in and out of there in 15 minutes. So I come back in 93 with the intention I go into Fort Erie. But, of course, everything started at Woodbine, right? Greenwood and no, I think Greenwood was done by then. Greenwood was done by then. So it was Woodbine. So at Woodbine, you're getting ready. Week before races ready to start, I said, okay, I'm going to get my work permit. I go downtown, the same office. Remember the guy, Mr. Young, I think was his name?
Yes.
I go down to get my work permit. He said, boy, it ain't working like this anymore. I said, what do you mean? Right? Races starting in a week. No, all of a sudden, I ain't got no work permit. which means I ain't got no health insurance. I ain't got nothing but raising starting a week. And I didn't tell anybody.
Mhm.
But talk about riding on edge and worrying about immigration and this and that, Sean. I rode almost the whole year in Canada without the correct. I mean, I could say no because first of all, I retired. What are you gonna do? Right? But I rode the whole year without the proper paperwork because I had to get a lawyer and I had a lawyer working for me trying to get the papers and stuff
Yeah.
ready. But when 40 open, I came back and I started to gain some traction, but it was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Watch where you're riding because you ain't got no health insurance.
Yeah.
Watch what you're doing because you ain't got the right papers. And
Uh-huh.
it kind of slowed me down a little bit because I wasn't going all out. But anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, I get my papers. I become a resident instead of getting a work permit and all that stuff. Come back the next year and I got a new agent, Rick Somerville. All right.
Mhm.
And Rick he was one of the best agents I ever had. And I tell you why he was good. Rick don't care about nobody. Rick would look you straight in your eye and lie to you and spin you at the draw if he get a better horse and just he was heartless. Which for some agents that is work. So once I hire Rick, I start getting into the better barns at Fort Erie. And my breakout really start to come early in '94. What's another decision I made? It was one of the best decisions I would advise any writer to do. If you feel you got talent, but you may go actually have it too, because a lot of guys feel they have it, but they ain't got it. But if you got talent, the best thing I'm gonna tell you something, the best advice I can give any writer, and another very accomplished writer had told me this. He said the worst thing you can do as a jockey is write instructions. And at the beginning of '94, I decide I come in with this attitude. My thing was gonna be whatever, dude. I was going to walk in ring, trying to give me instructions. And when they legging me up, I thinking, whatever, dude. I ride in this race the way I want. It was career changing for me. It was career changing. Right
I,
and right. And not when I say I don't mean you disregard everything the trainer said. Because if it's a horse that I don't know, I like to know if they have any quirks or they like this, they like to speak. But you got some trainers that would tell you, okay, when you come out to get sit third or sit fourth and then do this and do that. You're telling a jockey to sit third. I know the guy in front walking in front of you and you're strangling your horse trying to sit third. Prior to the previous 7 years that I rode, Sean, I lose more races writing to instructions than I could count. And like I said, I retired now so I can say what I want. The majority of trainers is give terrible instruction. Terrible. Not bad, terrible, right? So
you see, Sean. Sean probably scratching his, or should be scratching his head
Sean was
right
a
now.
jockey.
But he's the
Sean was a
trainer.
jockey. Sean was a jockey. Sean know what I'm talking about. Sean don't
But
give
I never
instructions.
give. The thing about it is, I
Sean
never
don't give
when he
instructions.
wrote for me, I never give him instructions though.
Because
So
I think you might have figured by then I ain't gonna listen to you anyway.
Chris, when you said for guys who think they got talent, some of the best things that they should do, I was gonna say, well, what they should do is hire Rick because he's gonna lie you right in their
Yeah.
face.
No, Rick was a good agent, but he was ruthless. So anyway, I made that decision. I'm gonna start writing. I'm gonna do this my way. I'm gonna write where I want to live, and I'm gonna do this my way. I'm gonna write the way I want to write. And if it work, it work. If not, at least I could say, well, I do it the way I wanted to do it. I ain't got nobody to blame. But anyway, so I get Rick, and I changed my whole attitude about writing. And then we start running some horses for our man Ralph Bayamon, and Ralph was the king of Fort Erie at the time, right? So Georgie Pizarro was Ralph's main guy then, right? So I was kind of getting the second calls and stuff like that. So that alone, just Ralph, like I said, Ralph was the king, right? And that alone helped propel me to being second leading writer. Georgie Pizarro, which was Ralph's main guy at the time, he ended up being leading writer. And we had a great meet. It was the best meet that I had, right? And I was like, okay, finally. It's like, with a guy like Ralph behind me and just writing for Ralph alone, drawing a lot of other business. Whenever you write for the main guy,
yes,
you know how it is. Like once you write for the main guy, the others will follow.
yes,
Majority of the time, right? So that set me up for '95, which was going to be my breakout year, but obviously I didn't know at the time. I was going back thinking I still had a lot of business. I was going to get some from Ralph and I'm going to have a good meet. But then I was friends with Georgie Prezzera. Georgie was a good rider too, smart, like
Yeah.
good judge of pace, but he was heavy all the time. He
Mhm.
was, about being
Yeah.
heavy. Georgie it was a constant battle with his weight. And we was coming into the '95 season, and we used to go to the jock's room at Fordery even before races start, and help get your weight down, use the sauna and stuff like that. And George started telling me, "Say, Chris, I don't know if I could make it this year. Like I'm really struggling." And coming up to like it was he'd actually already taken entries. We'd already taken entries, and George come to me and says, "Chris, I gotta retire. Tell Rick to talk to Ralph." So I get Rick to talk to Ralph, and Ralph kind of give us the word that, okay, Georgie's gone, you're gonna take his spot. So
Mhm.
we used to have a little meeting every morning. Not every morning, but we would have meetings like to talk about where we want to go. And I remember Rick say, I want you to come early. We need to talk some things over, right? Because now everything changed. So
Mhm.
now we're gonna be the main guy for Ralph. And we're talking. I say, Rick, I said, "You ready, Rick?" He said, "Ready for what?" I said, "Let me tell you something. I've been in this country now 7, 8 years, and it's been 8 years of frustration and waiting. Feel like I can't get an opportunity, can't get a break." And I said, "Here's my break now." I said, "Rick, my plan is to set this place on fire." I said, "If Ralph in my corner, I setting this place on fire." And so said, so done. The first 8 days, I went 15 races already, and it it was just a matter of opening up on the field. I actually that year for Ralph alone, just one trainer, I went 49 races for Ralph alone, just that one trainer. And having somebody like that in your corner, I give Ralph a lot of the
Great.
credit for any success I had after that because he allowed me to showcase what I can do, which is what I always felt all along. I always felt like, man, I'm not getting an opportunity. Like, why? I used to really try hard to improve, and like there really wasn't anything on a horse I couldn't do. Like as far as in a race, switch stick, whatever, no pace. I kind of knew, and I was like, man, why can't get a break? So that's why I tell Rick when I said, I've been waiting for this break. I said, I sorry for the rest of these guys, but
But
we
funny
can
enough,
set this
you should
place.
say that, Chris, right? I had a conversation with Anthony husbands one time, and we were discussing yourself and Patrick and that kind of stuff. And the same thing we are talking about here now is opportunity. And he was
There's
saying,
nothing more
he
important to our
said, he
jockey than
said,
opportunity.
he said,
Nothing.
he said, if if Chris was in the position of Patrick at the time with that opportunity, Chris would have been the man.
Not
You know
not
what I
not
mean?
just me, Sean. Listen, Barbados, not just jockeys. Barbados, for whatever reason, Barbados is a horseman factory.
Mm-hmm.
Jockeys. So you mentioned me and Patrick. There's a lot of other guys that, if they had gotten the opportunity that I got or Patrick got, they would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, Sean. There's been a lot of good jockeys come through Barbados,
It's true.
and I even some that never come to Canada. I mean, like Jeffrey Brown and like Neil Brewster. We had
Mm-hmm.
good jockeys that
Mm-hmm.
I know if they had been given the opportunity, they would have done the same thing, or
Mm-hmm.
just as well, or just like around the same thing. And you know, like look at Emil, friend. I want to talk about Emil.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about frustration, right? One of the things that had kept me going back in 1991, I had known Emil. Emil was a champion,
Mm-hmm.
like a freaking superhero in Trinidad, right? And then when I was struggling too, Emil was there, and for as much I was struggling, Emil was barely getting rides.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
Emil
true.
went two. There was one year where Emil went two races the whole year.
Yeah.
I used to think like, what? How is it that people can't see that this guy could ride? And then I used to also wonder, how is it Emil taking this? Because it's not like me. I was just a bug boy trying to
Yeah.
get going. Emil was already a star,
Established.
right? And I used to say to myself, well, if he could stick this out, I gotta keep trying to. But I tell you one thing, I have never, to this day, I have never met Emil. To me, is what I would consider a completely perfect jockey.
Mhm.
Wow.
I have never met somebody as dedicated as Emil.
Mhm.
He's a workaholic, as a fitness nut. Somebody you could ask some of the other guys, some of the workouts that I see Emil doing in the sauna, most people can't do in an air conditioned room. I watch Emil in sauna, and somebody's got to tell you, my man, you need to stop, man. Like, yeah, it's like Emil in the sauna. I tell you what, Emil complete and mentally tough,
Mhm.
tough, tough, tough. Like,
Chris,
you
you
Chris,
have,
remember?
yeah,
You remember
can
the
we tap
race?
back a little bit? I want to
No,
talk about some of those things that you were talking about earlier. So
what's
I
yeah,
that?
want to ask
but
about for Woodbine, like when you went to Maryland and you found that you were surrounded by all these great horsemen, these great jockeys, right? And
Yeah.
then you came back to Woodbine and you still found it really tough. So you were like, man, if I when I leave Maryland, when I come back to Canada, they're gonna want to ride me. In your mind, you were saying that,
Yeah,
right?
so in my mind, I knew I got him better. Right? I
Right.
knew I got him better, and I learned a lot just from riding with those guys and from watching them. You can learn a lot just by watching. Actually, I think you learn most just by watching. You watch other riders, not just the good ones. You can watch the bad ones too and realize, man, this guy always doing this and it never works. So you can realize, okay, I'm not doing that. I was like a sponge. So when you go there and you got those kind of riders, and like I said, I don't want to disparage Woodbine or anything, but that was a different kettle of fish. That group of guys that was in Maryland at the time was a different ball game than what
So
was
you
at.
so you found Woodbine was because you couldn't. You say it just like you weren't getting the mounts or whatever, right?
Yeah, I just wasn't
So
getting the opportunity, and I couldn't figure it out because I felt like people should see, okay, this guy can ride. This guy's an improving rider, or he's willing to work, and it just wasn't working. Not, and I
so
it,
was it
it,
competitive or was it selective?
it wasn't. I mean, every track is competitive, but the problem is the opportunity. Everywhere, people have this thing about, like take Rocco for instance.
yes.
You hear people talk about, oh, Rocco, he was leading rider, but he was out in Portland. Let me tell you something. Every racetrack tough. Everywhere, especially in the States, every racetrack tough. Every racetrack have good riders, and every racetrack you still need opportunity. It don't matter where you go. Every track you need the opportunity. I don't care how. If you take the Ortiz boys and send them to Belterra Park and put them on the horses that the guys that ain't doing no good riding, they ain't gonna do no good either. You need the opportunity. Like like you can't go anywhere without opportunity.
Yeah, but now you're talking about that with Rocco going. That's the thing that amazes me about this guy. That he seems to find opportunities wherever he goes. Or
Yeah, well, that's it. That's
how
a
do you
that's a
think he does
testament.
it? Or,
That's a testament to him and his agent. Because I tell you what, Sean, what he's doing is really hard to do. It's
of
really
course.
hard to do. To win any title at any track in the states, it's hard to do. What he and Safi doing right now is is impressive.
Mhm.
It's impressive. It's not like when we come to Canada, like we come to Canada and like even like in this whole conversation, what I talk about, all I talk about is Woodbine and Fort Erie. That's two tracks.
Yes.
That's
I
right.
remember I remember one winter I went to Charleston and there was a guy there that was a Canadian guy that was an agent, and he was hanging out with myself and Donnie McCrae and some of the other guys. And he sat down and he pulled his stuff out of his, he had like, how agents always got a lot of books and this and that. And he put his stuff on the table there that we
What else do they have, Chris? He said
like
books
they
and
always got,
all.
they always got books like the condition books and like so. But in Canada, most of the agents when they pull out, they're pulling out one book. They either pulling out the book at Woodbine or the guys at
Uh,
40 pulling out the book at 40. This guy pull out a library and put it on the table. And I see condition books, Charlestown, Penn National, Philadelphia Park. Like the guy had like 5 different condition books, and he get on the phone and start calling all these different racetracks. So the business in the States is tougher. It's tougher. You got more competition in and out of each track. Like at Woodbine or Fordery, if there's a race now and there's a two, you pretty much know who's gonna be in it. You know who's gonna be in it because it's kind of a bubble. Whereas in the States, you don't know. Like there's people coming in and out, shipping in and out. I actually just remind me of a story. I remember I rode a horse for Kevin Buddy. at Charlestown, and he ran it out of condition. So I think the race was like non-winners of 3, but the horse was a non-winner of 2, but there was no other race. So he ran the horse in the race, and we were favorite, and we won. We come back 2 weeks later, the same race. So now he fit the condition because now he's a non-winner of 3. So essentially, it's the same race, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was 9 horses in the race, and it was me and 8 completely different horses, and I was 20-1, and I hit the board. You know what I mean? So it's just like down there, it's harder because people think, oh, it's a small track or this and that, but it's tough. Like there's more to pay attention to. What them guys doing is, to me, is impressive. You know, especially Rocco moving from track to track, like that's hard to do. It's different. Like I say, up in Canada, most people at one track and you know everything. Like, you know, it's not as, you don't have to be, especially for agents, you don't have to be as sharp, or even with the jocks, with the, you know, you're reading the racing forum and you pick up the racing forum. Pretty much every horse, there's really nobody new. You know all the horses.
Yeah.
You know, a few months into the meet, you know all the horses, and it's different. So it's pretty impressive. I don't think them guys getting enough credit for what they're doing. Safi and Rocco.
Well, yeah, I think they're doing some wonderful things because, you know, Safi continues to defy the odds, man. He continued to win races that the experts say he's not supposed to win. So that's
pretty impressive what they're doing.
I was going to ask you about the so I guess within Canada, I guess those other tracks that are like on the West Coast and down the prairies, they're a little bit too far, and the price and the purses are not that high. So I guess, you know, the moving around part is not really fair. It doesn't
you don't really move. You don't really move around because they're just so far apart. The tracks here are so far apart. The only 2 tracks that are close together is Woodbine and Fort Erie. They're, you know, hour and a half apart. The other, if you're gonna go from Fort Erie, if I was gonna go to Winnipeg, I could probably fly to Barbados quicker than I can fly to Winnipeg. You know, like,
I was saying, and the airline tickets are way too high too, because in the States you can move around $50-$75 and you're there, but here it's like, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the
$500
in the States, they can ride 2 different tracks in the same day, and, you know, one track during the day, one track at night. There's more circuits there where it's accessible. Is different from up here. Up here, most of the tracks, you're kind of like in a bubble.
Wow. And you found Fort Erie, like, what was it about Fort Erie that you wanted to live down there actually?
I don't even know. I just, from the time I come here, I just love the Niagara area. Like, I live 10 minutes from Niagara Falls, and I just like living here. And I kind of like I said, I got to that point where I decided I want to ride where I want to live rather than the other way around, because I don't want my whole life is not being a jockey. When I leave the track, I want to be still happy. I don't want to just go home and don't want to leave the house.
Why don't you tell the people that you live in a snow belt?
It is a snow belt, but not inside the house. The heat in here ain't good.
You see, every week me and Sean have this joke where he tells me about it's cold and it's warm inside, man.
They say wearing short sleeves. But plus, you know, it's only the last winter and this winter is the first time in 20 years I spent winters in Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I always I started going to Ocala like in the winter of '99, and that's a different story. That was life changing for me too, because it showed me a completely different side of the game.
Yeah, let's talk about George. Let's talk about man George.
You know, if I start talking about Sean, you know what, George is the trainer for Ocala Stud. He's from the Bahamas, right? He already got a big head. If I start talking too much about George now, you know, his head can get bigger, right? So I don't want to say too much about George.
You can talk a little bit more about George, but before we go to talk about George, can you, in your mind, go back to '96 when you won the Gold Cup for a certain person?
Oh yeah. Oh Sean, you know, I was gonna ask you if you picked me to have this today, because it's our, you know, yesterday was our 26-year anniversary, right?
Oh, yesterday? Wow.
Yeah, yesterday was 26 years ago. I know it making us look old, but it was 26 years ago yesterday.
Chris,
that we
it just proves how this is meant to be. I didn't think about that. Sorry.
Hold that thought for a second.
Well, the light is flashing. The owned orders for the 1996 Scotts Tour Cup, and away they go. And at the back of the field, Mariposa Lily came out quite slowly, but straight to the front. The one that streaks into the lead, going for the lead immediately. That one is leading Article towards the outside and well away. Saria Bagwan. Asian Jane is right up on the pace as well. But as they come around that home turn and come down the stretch for the first time, it's leading Article in front. Asian Jane in second position, making it happen right upon the pace. Saria Bagwan is 4 wide. Down on the inside, Rambrino comes next. Towards between horses, Bruton Stream, highly honored up on the outside. Past the stands for the first time, and now it's making it happen. That takes command. He's in front. They've gone the first quarter in 25 and 1/5. In second position is Asian Jin. On the outside, that one is Saria Bagwan. Rambrino on the inside. Towards the outside, Verity comes next. Leading Article has been relegated right down the field. And the last one at this stage, that one is Adams Rascal.
Marker, the leader is still making it happen. Asian Jane. Saria Bagwan goes well. Then comes Rambrino. As they meet the rising ground, Rambrino is there. Then I can see Talahorny goes well. Bruton Stream on the inside. Mariposa Lily, highly honored with a lot to do. Leading Article, the trailer. Way out of it is Adams Rascal. They get to the top of the hill and it is making it happen. And Saria Bagwan, Asian Jane is under pressure. They come over the top of the hill and the leader is still making it happen on the inside. On the outside, Saria Bagwan. Then Rambrino goes well. Asian Jane is there. Then Mariposa Lily is in it as well. And then on the outside, I can see the hood. I can see the hood of Bruton Stream. They come back to the top of the hill and it's at the top of the straight, and on the inside it is making it happen. Rambrino goes best of all on the outside. Through in the middle is highly honored, looking very strong on the inside. Mariposa Lily is there as well, but it is Rambrino who comes to the front and begins to run away from them inside the final 150 yards. It is Rambrino from making it happen. Saria Bagwan, Mariposa Lily on the outside. Cyan Gold. Between horses comes Bruton Stream.
Look how young we look, Sean.
Any thoughts on that?
That it don't seem like 26 years ago, but I guess it is. No, that was a fun day. You know, that horse was he was a project. That horse.
More than a project.
Yeah, and you know it's funny. I've had over a, you know, like throughout my racing career, I've always had things that happened that I kind of knew was gonna happen. And I remember when he had got beat the race before the Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, we come around where the tennis courts used to be, and he just started logging in really bad. I mean, real bad. I ended up finishing second, but he should have won. He was lugging in so bad, I couldn't get it. Remember I told you, I could not get him off the rail to go around the other horse. And that's when you put the war horse mask on him. And I remember when I was walking out to the paddock, and my only concern was, I hope these things work. And I hope this idiot come out here and decide to run. And I remember I walk out, and it's funny, because I don't remember who the photographer was, but he had taken a picture. I have the picture somewhere in here. And he'd take the picture, and I remember him asking me what it was that you were thinking. He says, you look like you were deep in thought. And I said, I'm so glad you take this picture, because when I was walking out, I started looking to see where Rambrino was. And I just wanted to see, I thinking to myself, I hope this idiot ain't out here acting a fool, because you know, he was very fun. And when I see him walking around nice and calm, I had a real smile in my heart. I said, like, they're going to be in some serious trouble. The only horse I was kind of worried about was making it happen, because he was a quality horse. But once we got past the 5-base pole, the 5 furlongs, it was just a matter of me deciding. Well, I know I was going to win. It wasn't if at that point, in my mind, it wasn't if I was going to win or not. I knew I was going to win, but I had to figure out the best way to get this horse to win without him doing something stupid, because, you know, he was prone to be a rogue. Like I said, I got to figure out the best thing to do. And watching it back there, I still remember going back past the start. We started in the 9 furlong pole. I take another hold of him because I didn't want to make the lead too early. I could have made the lead whenever I wanted, but I felt like if I made the lead and he don't have anything to focus on, he liable to act a fool. So I remember just waiting and creeping up, and not wanting to be in front by myself
too long.
because I didn't know what the hell he was gonna do.
Was that horse really that kind of project for real?
He was a pain in the ass. He's just one.
I
of
remember
those-
Roger
horse was
Apton was
terrible.
telling us about horses that like some of them just got a mind of their own, and you just got to let them do what they want to do. So
And
was he
that
one of those kind of horses?
That horse used to remind me of Dennis Rodman. He got the world of talent, but just got to be a pain in the ass. Eh? But he got it
terrible,
done.
man.
That race was a lot of fun.
Richard Edgell asked if this was your happiest moment in Barbados winning the Gold Cup.
The Gold Cup? Yeah, I would say yes, because I remember when the Gold Cup first started, and it was, that Gold Cup we won, that was the last Cockspur. There was no more Cockspurs after that. That was the last Cockspur. Then it switched to Stanley. But I remember when I was 14 when Ricky won with Tinker's Image. And I just remember, like, I always knew I was going to ride. I was going to be a jockey. And that race was like, when he won, I remember, like, man, I want to have that feeling one day.
Yeah.
So that was the most fun that I had. Actually, I should have won a Gold Cup before. I was riding Choo Choo Royale. I got
Choo Choo Royale
off at the last minute.
And because of that, it was very important for you to win a Gold Cup in Barbados. Ben with our time.
Yeah.
Nobody didn't get it right because you got that day.
That race was that actually not, you talk about that race is probably the most fun race, not just Barbados. That's probably the most fun race I ever win. And like period. That race.
You guys were really young too, man.
I was 96. No, I was
the youngest guy to win that race. I was 29.
You don't think 25 is young?
I was not for jockeys in Barbados. I was 25 when I won that,
and it was 29.
That was fun. That race was fun.
So
wow.
There's a few races that I never really, I find like sometimes I notice that I have a lot of a different mentality to the average jockey. There's very few races that I really like. Oh man, I love to win this race. To me, I just like winning. Races is races. There's a few. The Gold Cup was one. Growing up, you hear about the English Derby, the Kentucky Derby, and like I said, when I was growing up, I never hear nothing with the Queen's Plate or nothing like that. So even when I come here, as a matter of fact, I would give you an example. When I was really doing good in 95 and 96, and I still had my agent Rick, and both years we had an opportunity to ride in the Queen's Plate, but neither one of the horses had any shot. And I said to Rick, you really expect me to give up what I have here, what I'm gonna ride? Because it was always on Sunday. I said, I am not giving up the possibility of winning 2, 3, 4 races to drive 90 miles up the road and go drive back down 90 miles to ride a horse and I have no shot. It was never important enough for me to say. I never wanted to say, oh yeah, I ride in the Queen's Plate. If I can't say I win the Queen's Plate, then it don't matter to me if I ride or not. That's me. Whereas some other guys, they want to ride in the Queen's Plate. To me, it's not important. If I can't say that I won the race, what's the big deal? So you're riding the race, like. But to each their own. That's just not something that drives me. Them sort of things don't drive me. And I don't know if it helped me or hurt me as a rider, but just being honest, like I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't give up money. And like to me, that would have been giving up thousands of dollars just to say I ride in Queen's Plate. And for me, it's not that important. I would love to win the Queen's Plate, but just to say ride in it, that don't do anything for me.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and I said to each their own. There's some guys that like to say they rode this race or that race or that, but just to me, I don't get any pleasure out of just saying that I rode in any particular race or I ride at any particular track. If I didn't win, then well, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear about it if you didn't win. Like,
but knowing all of what you learned since you came to Canada and when you went through all the struggles and everything, is there anything that you would want to teach younger jockeys how to conduct their business in order to develop the business actually, because jockey is a business?
Yeah, no, definitely a business, and there's only so much you can teach about the business end of it. Sometimes you just have to go through it. Um, the last time I was in Barbados, it was the end of 2015. Like talking about jockeys and the business and stuff. And the guys in Barbados, they don't have the opportunity to learn the business because they're not in it. Riding in Barbados, like I said, it's a lot of fun. Like the fans real passionate and guys like to argue, and that's part of the island mentality. My horse beat this, meanwhile they don't own the horse, but how Bajans get on, they're real passionate. But for a jock, you're very, very limited in Barbados. And the last time I was in Barbados, first of all, I come back to ride that one of them jockeys tournaments with when they had the English guys and stuff like that, right? And I in the jock's room, I ain't know nobody in there. I was introduced to some of the guys, and then I sitting down, Sean, and I looking around and I see, oh, somebody tell me, oh, that's Renee Latchman's son. Oh, that's Simon husband's son. Oh, that's Jeffrey Brown's son. I was like, I start looking around and I realized, you know what? I'm the oldest person here. I started realizing, man, time really flies. I ride with these guys' father, now I ride with the son. I said, I'm the oldest buddy. But anyway, I still managed to win a race, so they can't take that from me, right? But I say that to say this. When I was there, even not knowing the guys and just watching the races, Sean, there's some guys in Barbados right now. When you talk about raw talent, I can't even call the names because I don't know them. But just watching the races every now and again, there's some guys in Barbados that can really ride, like the physical part of it. But then you start hearing the stories about the attitude or this and that. Like, being a jockey is more than just being able to ride good. If you want to go anywhere, you got to learn to be a professional. You can't just... You got to be a jockey when you're off the horse too. You got to realize that the stuff you do off the horse, even though maybe it shouldn't affect you, the way you act and carry on, it will affect your business. Whether you want to say that's fear or not, whether you want to say, well, you should only care if the guy could ride or not, the way you carry on yourself would affect your business, especially if you come up here.
And we are trying to bring that to the attention of our viewers and to the young jocks and to the public in Barbados and to the business people and to the government and to the industry to realize that there's so many jockeys, so many horsemen in Barbados, but the horsemen, the jockeys, they got to start putting their act together, start conducting it differently. I talked to Sean Hall.
Yeah, but you gotta sometimes, a lot of the guys that ride in there, like I said, a lot of them guys, you gotta realize that them guys young, man. Like the worst thing about being young,
they don't have a lot of guidance down here. Back in the day, you gotta remember, we're in the room that your father used to watch us like a hawk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he malicious.
You always used to check your length. You know what I mean? You put your length at a certain thing. He put his hand at this. He said, "Don't change this from here." And it was because we were the youngest ones in the box in the jocks room back in those days. But you had the guidance of men. I don't see they got too much guidance now. It's a bunch of youngsters. That's the problem, right, Chris? All of our good men are overseas, and it leaves a big hole. You know what I mean? A big crater.
Yeah. Well, I think Barbados kind of suffer a little bit when, like Ricky came up in '87. Then it was, you and Turkey followed short. I came up in '88. Myself, Jason King, Ted Holder. We were some of the first, Sylv Oliver. We were some of the first to come. But then after that, the year after, remember there was like a big explosion.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of people left Barbados, and I think that kind of created a vacuum.
Yes.
And so now you create that vacuum. A lot of the older guys left. So now the young guys that came up, they come up without much guidance.
Yes. That's
and
right.
now they're the older guys and the guys behind them following them. But them men had no guidance to start with. So now the guys behind them watching them, and it's hard to judge. I mean, you should take responsibility, but them guys young, and for lack of a better word, when you're young, you don't realize how stupid you are until you get older. So what are you going to do? You can only hope that they don't make too many mistakes. But, like when I left Barbados, I was 17, but I would say I was about almost the average age of the jocks in the room. If you take away Venice, like
Mhm.
the other guys were, like you and BF and that you're not that much older than me.
Mhm.
Whereas when I come to Canada, when I first started riding at Fordery, I was like I said, I was 17. The next youngest person was 22. I was the youngest person in the room, whereas I come from being like kind of average age. So it's just like different,
Yeah.
over here. These guys can't really. You're not supposed to get a license in Ontario till you're 18. Even when I come, they didn't really want. I had to get all kind of paperwork because they didn't want to really license me because I was still 17 at the time, but I'd already ridden and I had to go through some stuff to get the paper. So it's just like, them guys that they really need. I don't know what the solution is, but they do need some guidance, or they just need to get out of Barbados and get the experience of being around the business side of racing.
Well, how about if like, I mean, Sean and I we talk about this a lot. And how about the industry start just getting a little bit more serious? Not that they aren't serious, because some people may jump on top of me right now, but I mean, like, just get a little bit more serious about like guys like Sean, and there's other guys down there who can really kind of guide the guys into a mold them into something. You know what I mean? If for example, me and Sean we talk about this, and I speak about like Brazil and football or soccer,
Yeah,
and people know exactly where to go if they want good soccer players. They go to Brazil.
yeah.
Barbados can become that too.
I
Yeah,
think
but
people are realizing it though. I think people are realizing that we're becoming a brand name. That these guys from Barbados can ride
yeah,
and
and to ride and groom and gallop and like
everything.
train, like I said,
Good
Barbados
horse people, good
with
horsemen,
good horse people,
and women too.
but at the same time, talking about like the guys that are there, and it's hard to guide somebody that ain't looking for guidance too. Like you would reach some of the people, but you got to be looking for guidance before you receive it.
But
There,
they got a lot of these guys that are pretty decent, man. A lot of these youngsters that leaving now, they're pretty good guys, man. And especially ones who've been riding and doing well for a little while now, they carry themselves well, and I expect them to do very, very well.
well, hopefully, I mean, like I said earlier, riding in Barbados is a lot of fun, but any rider that have a chance to leave probably
Somebody's
should.
asking a question here. Did you feel pressured to be an ambassador for the guys to follow later?
At the time, no, because we didn't realize it. Like I mean, like I said, Ricky talked me into coming. I talk a few of my friends into coming just so I won't be by myself.
Do
Like
you have names of those guys? Like who? Which
Ted
guys?
Holder, Ted Holder, Jason King, Sil Oliver, Slade Callahan. I used to like really want them guys to come, and Slade came a few years later, but Ted and Sil and Jason King,
Came early.
Ted Holder and Sylvester Oliver, they're training at Woodbine now,
Yeah.
and Jason King was galloping here for years. They're we like family, all them guys, right? And even when I was struggling and stuff, having them here kind of helped me not want to rush back because that was
Mm-hmm.
like my brothers, right? And I used to always try to talk people into coming. And as far as being an ambassador at the time, like I said, I was 17, 18. Ricky was in his 20s. We didn't really, I don't think any of us had at that time realized what was happening. We didn't really, when I left or when we left, I don't think we expected that there would be a mass exodus behind us like that. So I don't think we came at the time knowing that we set in a path for people to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And
I realized that many, many years after.
you spoke about Slade, and then you saw like Slade and John O
But
and
John came later.
Patrick.
And Brett Callahan was one of the early people that here. Brett
Patrick
came
would have
here.
come. Patrick would have come more because of Anthony. Because
Well,
Anthony and Ricky the first to come, right?
yeah, well, that's why I started off by saying everybody here owe Ricky a huge debt because Ricky was here first. Ricky made the inroads. Ricky got when Mark was just starting to invade Canada before Mark was where he is now. Ricky used to ride for Mark, and Ricky and Mark become friendly.
Mhm.
And Ricky got a job with Mark for Anthony. with Turkey, right? And he become Mark main guy.
Mhm.
So when
Assistant.
Andy become Mark main guy, he was able to bring in Patrick.
Mhm.
And this was over the course of a few years. And by then, Mark had just started to take off. And then Patrick was able to ride for Mark for like, Patrick was Mark main guy for like at least 20 years. I know, there've been some change. I don't know exactly what's going on. I see him riding a lot of different people now and stuff. But for like
He's
20
still riding
years,
his big horses.
yeah, but for like 20 years, Patrick was Mark main guy. And that was directly because of Anthony. And Anthony got that job directly because of Ricky.
But what I wanted to ask you was like you've won so many races at Fort Erie, man. And you've become like a staple. Like you become like that person that we know. We say, "Oh, the person gonna win that race." But I mean, like, was there a time that you ever thought, well, you should be in there at Woodbine, or was that not even an afterthought anymore after a few years?
I used to think that because people, I get to realize, I used to think it because people kept telling me. And there was always a part of me that say, man, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why? Like, to myself, I never really tell too many people that outwardly, but I used to say, well, what's wrong with you? Well, you don't want to go to Woodbine. There was times where I would go. I give you a story, because this was 2012 or 13. Ricky had started training for that big outfit that he had, and they had some. Ricky was in Florida that year and had some really good 2-year-olds. And I said, like, I felt like, okay, Ricky got some nice horses that gonna do well at Woodbine, right? And I felt like this is a chance for maybe me and my brother to do something, just do something, right? So I went back to Woodbine that year in 2012. And we won a bunch of races. I won a bunch of races for Ricky with a lot of 2-year-olds. And there was this one week in particular. We won 150 grander the Sunday, and then the Saturday we won another 150 grander. So 2 in 1 week, 250,000. And I was walking back from how to take the picture in the infield, and we walking back across the grass, and I said to my valet, I said, what time is it, right? And he told me what time it was, and I think in my head, shit, like, we could curse on this show because I keep saying
But that ain't too bad.
that's okay. So I said to him, I said, shit, and I thinking, I just won 150 grand, and I'm walking back across the infield to the jobs room. And he told me what time it was, and I kind of start tripping because all I'm thinking about is I can get caught in traffic going back to Fort Erie. And I go back to Josh's room and I hustle and get out of there. And then I was driving home and I was like, you just win 250 granders in a week. And your thought coming across the turf course back to the room was, I'm in a hurry to get out of Toronto and go back to Fort Erie. And I was just like, there's always just something that it just didn't. Listen, the facilities at Woodbine is top class, good money, everything. There was just something about it that just never really mean that much to me. It just never did. Like I
Probably
said,
left a bad taste in your
we're
mouth.
talking about, like, somebody asked me about the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup is 100,000 or whatever it is, and like I just talked about winning 250 granders. Them 2 races, I tell you all before we get on here, I tell you this is my like scrapbook room. You could you look around. I got pictures everywhere.
And it's absolutely beautiful. I told you that earlier, man.
Yeah, I
It's
got pictures
beautiful.
everywhere. Them 250 grand, they're not even on this wall.
Oh,
And I don't even have. I know I have the pictures somewhere, but if you were to give me $1 million to find them now in the next 5 minutes, I can't even find them. So it's just like there's certain races that just mean something to me, and just winning, like, other than the fact that I won for Ricky, I don't get that joy, that feeling, just because it's more money.
which one of those races is the one that stood out to you that you held in your mind over all those years?
Which races stood out to me?
Yeah, which one that holds that warm spot in your heart?
The Gold Cup is the most fun race I ever won. That was fun because, like I said, you win a stake at Woodbine. Like I could go back to those 2 stakes. You win a stake and there ain't no cheering. There's no.
Yeah, it's
there's
true.
there ain't no fanfare. You win the Gold Cup. You see how it was when you're coming back. People all over the horse. People screaming. Like there's a vibe when you win them races you run them races at Woodbine and stuff, and
Sean told me something that was really interesting that had me actually, Chris, I had here before the show start, and I started to scratch my head, and all my hair just came right out. But
that's
he
your
said
story,
that
yeah?
you
Okay.
were the first jockey from Barbados that won a stakes race at Woodbine. Is this true?
I think so. I think so. If I know Ricky had won some, what they call it your handicaps, but I don't. So they were good money, but I don't think they were considered a stake. I think that the story I tell you about Mr. Ruler, the 2-year-old for Katie O'Connor,
Mhm.
that was my first stake. I think that was 1990. I think that
Yeah.
was the first stake.
Wow. I mean,
But
you're
at the
part of
time, I
history.
didn't know. I didn't even think about it. I didn't, back then, I wasn't really thinking like that. I wasn't thinking about being.
They're off in the autumn yearling sale stakes. Conduit Surge broke well. Third, Exude. Starting to gain ground on the outside. Fourth, third, now second and half. It's Mystery Ruler moving well off the rail in front by 3. Exude is second. Grecian Earn to the inside. Third, and Mighty Sham is fourth. They come to the 8th hole. It's Mystery Ruler in total control as they approach the 16th hole. On the inside, Grecian Earn second, and Exude was third.
Wow.
If you notice at the back of the horse just now, that was Sylvester Oliveira at the back of the horse, and
Yes.
so used to groom that horse.
Yes.
Wow.
And
So-
now watching back, if I knew they was gonna fire me after that race, I wouldn't have win by so far. I should have been. I probably should have won so far. I should have won by maybe by a car. That was the last time I rode that horse. After that. If I really knew they was gonna fire me, I probably should have, eased up a little bit. I make him look too good.
I gotta tell you,
You know
before I
what?
forget.
That's the problem though in North
I
America.
have to tell you a story before I forget.
What?
No, but that's the problem. What Chris just said just now. When you make horses look too good, boy, the sharks are always on you, man. I mean, when I had Social Charter, and we won the Clip Stakes by 10 lengths or whatever. I went to Belmont to run in the Brooklyn Handicap. He came 5th. But from the time I came back from Belmont, I noticed a trainer came back with me. A fellow called a guy named Pat Burns. And
Oh,
they told me,
yeah.
I like to think the thing. Robert Sank's son called me, I'm Sean. I'm just letting you know that Pat Burns will be coming up to take a look at Social Charter. He said, I really think they're just kicking the tires. I don't think anything's going to come out of it, I said, okay. When I come at the man, pick up the guy, he told me to do whatever I do with him. I used to train him in the little sand ring there, Baker's Acres.
Yeah.
And next day, Chris, when I probably came back to him, he said, Sean, he said, I don't like taking horses from small trainers like yourself. But I must tell you that I love this horse.
Oh, shit.
And this is the best part, Chris. He said, and he'll be leaving this afternoon at 3:30.
Oh, really?
When he told me so, Chris, I tried to swallow. I almost choked myself. With my Adam's apple. I almost choked on my one Adam's apple. And then I start tearing up. No, I won't cry. I said, I can't cry for this man. So I start catching
you gotta wait to get in the car to cry.
I don't top the horse still. I still don't top the horse, and then he walking back.
Oh, you couldn't even get to the barns. He didn't even worry he didn't even care if you fall off or not.
But that's the sort of things you have to go through.
Yeah, is when I lose the mount on that horse, that was a hard lesson for me to learn. That was tough because the way I take it is like, so even winning is not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah.
That's the way I took it. So
yeah, you're right.
I rode the horse 3 times. He won 2. That was the last time he went, and so even winning wasn't good enough for them. They just, and it was, like I say, I know it wasn't Katie because Katie had put me on a lot of other winners before and after that.
Yes.
So for those owners, even winning was not good enough.
Yes.
You know, they didn't even wait to say, well, let him ride it again, and if he get beat,
Yeah.
then we take him off. They
Yeah.
just when you get fired off for a win, what you supposed to do? You
But you
know?
know what? Over the years,
Listen.
when we see you come up to Woodbine to ride a few races, I mean, you would always like surprise the odds all the time. Like
Well, like
it
I
wasn't
say,
no doubt about it.
once I decided to stay in Fordery, I really didn't like going to Woodbine unless and it's I didn't I get after you ride for a certain amount of years. When I first started riding, I just wanted to ride. I didn't care if I just wanted to be in the race. Whether I finished seventh, eighth, last, you don't care. But as the years go on, after many years, especially after I get that real taste for winning, one of the it's probably actually not the best thing that can happen to a rider, but it happened to me. I get to the point where if I didn't win, I didn't really enjoy it. Like it got to where just being in the race wasn't enough. It got to the point where I had to win. So if I'm gonna drive all the way to Woodbine, I hated driving up there if I didn't win. So I always limit my travels if I don't feel like I can win.
Wow.
Now, let's stretch it a bit because I want to. Leroy Trotman asked a question earlier on there about you getting on horses at the sales.
Well, he want to know.
stakes.
He want to know why I can't talk for 3.5 hours.
I ain't see no problem with that.
No, but he's asking about all the good horses you got on in the sales when you worked for O'Callaghan, that kind of places. He said,
Sean,
tell them about the nice 2-year-olds you picked in the sales. Sorry.
The ones that I picked?
You picked.
But, when I started going to Ocala, first I went down there firstly just to work with Ocala Stud, and I would just breeze the horses in the sales.
Mm-hmm.
Breeze them, get them ready going up to the sale and breeze them in the sale. That was the original reason I went to Ocala. But after being there and seeing it's a different world. First of all, it opened my eyes to the fact that when it comes to horse racing, the actual racing part of it is just fun, mostly fun. The money is behind the scenes. The money is in the buying and the selling and the breeding and that's where the money is. So being around that, I start to dabble in it myself a little bit, buying and selling horses. And I tell you earlier, Dean is like a brother to me. Me and Dean we go to the sales and we buy horses and put them back to the sale and sell them. Sometimes he would keep them on run, stuff like that. But as for me personally, the most enjoyable one that I ever bought and sold, it's actually kind of a funny story because myself, Dean, Nathan Squires, Nathan, Nathan's another trainer up here. We were at the sale and there was a horse that I really like, and it was really early in the stage. It was hip number 4 actually. And when we got to Keeneland, the rain was pouring. So it was pouring so bad that they delayed the start of the sale. But I had gone and saw this horse previously, and I really liked her. And when you're buying horses, the guys kind of give you a roundabout of what the reserve is going to be. And the reserve was going to be way out of my price range of what I wanted to spend for a horse like that, right? So now they start the sale and there's nobody back there. I mean, it was like a torrential downpour. And I'm like, why they're starting the sale? Like nobody's in here. It's me and Nathan and a handful of other people, but not like the crowd that they expect. I'm like, nobody even realized that the sale's starting, right? So the first 4 horses went through the ring and she didn't meet the reserve. And I know she didn't meet the reserve because the guy had given me a ballpark of what they're going to take. So I said, shit, that horse that I really like didn't sell. And I have a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, sympathy, I guess, right? So I knew the guy wanted a certain amount of money for his horse. I'd already talked to him, but I wanted to lowball him, but I didn't have the heart to do it myself, right? So I get our buddy Nathan Squires. Anybody that knows Nathan don't worry too much about who he offend, right? So I said, Nathan, I want you to do me a favor, please. I said, I want you to go to this barn, talk to this guy, and give him a low ball offer, right? I said, give him a low ball offer and see what he say. And I said, well, how much you want me to offer? I said, you just do it. I said, I leave it to you to do it. So Nathan went and come back, and Nathan told me the guy was so mad that they started the sale, right? That he's just like, he was like incensed that they started the sale when people weren't in there.
Mhm.
And Nathan said, the guy said right now he would take $2,000 for this horse. I said, what? He said, that's what the guy told me. I said, Nathan, are you serious? I went straight. So I bought the horse after it went through the ring for $2,000, right? Filly by Flat Out, right? And so what we do after we buy them is we send them to Ocala to get them broke, you get them going, and you get them to the sale, right? So it's not cheap to do that, right? So the guy, I didn't do this one. This one I didn't do with Ocala Stud. I got another friend there. He operated Big Easy consignment.
Big Easy, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Trish.
You know,
That's
yeah,
Trish and those guys.
Yeah, Bobby and Trish, right?
Yeah, man. They bring all our horses up here.
And Bobby's like a cowboy, you know. He's excellent at breaking horses, right? So I send the horse to him, and he does the sale too. So I send the horse to him. I bought it for $2,000, sent it to him, and he immediately fell in love with the horse, and he wanted a part of it. So I gave him part of the horse. I paid $2,000. I say you can have half the horse if I get no bills, which to me it probably would have cost me like 10 or 12,000 to get the horse to the sale. So essentially, I sell half of a $2,000 horse for like $12,000, right? So I'm out. I already out. It's a free horse, right? Long story short, we fast forward. We go and get to the sale. I breeze her, and she breezed 10 flat, right? Like really good 10 flat. And over the years at the sale, I have built up a rapport with Todd Pletcher, right? Because when he first started training for Melnick, it was shortly after I had rode for Melnick in the Gold Cup. And I had a conversation with Melnick, and I tell him, you know, I talk about the sale, and because Melnick used to get, you know, Sean, Melnick used to get robbed at the sale, right? So he always told me, like, if there's anything that I like, to let him know.
But we bought a horse from you, remember? We bought a horse from Coleman Hall or something like that.
Yeah, I bought a couple of horses from, but the Collimore Hall is how I met Todd, because I called Melnick and told him about Collimore Hall, and they bought him, and Todd ended up training her, right?
Yes.
So when after he started coming to the sale, Todd would come and talk to me, and Pletcher is that kind of guy. He's like a Hall of Fame trainer, but everything. But I tell you one thing I noticed about him: if he know you, and he see you, you don't have to go approach him. He'd come and say hi to you. He seemed, at least that's the way he is with me. He's not one of them guys that's stuck up at all, and people probably would be surprised to know that. And I was surprised too, because when I first started knowing, he would not be. I'm not gonna walk up to Todd Pletcher and say, but he would always approach me, hey Chris, and you know, and he always remember that I ride at Fort Erie, and how's Fort Erie, chit chat, what do you like in the barn, stuff like that, right? And actually, I'll tell you a quick story about Todd. He also bought Chapel Royal from Ocala Stud, right? He bought Chapel Royal, paid $1.3 million or something, and you know, he ended up going to the Breeders' Cup and stuff. And a couple of years later, Chapel Royal had a full sister, and by then I had known Todd, and he come to the barn and he said, you know, Chris, what do you think? Blah blah blah. And I was like, you know, I give him my opinion, and he said to me, what about this one, Chapel Royal's sister? Now, Ocala Stud is my people, so I never would say anything bad about any of their horses. But Todd asked me about this particular horse, Chapel Royal full sister. He said, well, what do you think about Chapel Royal full sister? I said, listen, these are my people, so I'm not gonna say anything bad about this horse. But if you're looking at her thinking that she's Chapel Royal, all I can tell you is that she is not Chapel Royal. So that was my way of telling him this one ain't no good. But you know, I don't want to come out and say it because I don't want to cause my guys a sale if he want to buy the horse. So I said, all I can tell you is this is not Chapel Royal. Long story short, he bought the horse anyway, right? I don't think the horse ever break his maiden. Jump forward a couple of years, he come back to the sale again, and he said, Chris, I want you to meet this guy. And I'm looking at this guy, and he's like he called the guy over. I'm looking at this guy, and it's like, this guy looked familiar, but I can't really place him. It turned out to be Rapoli, right? And Rapoli is like a billionaire, but if you see him, Sean, you wouldn't know. Rapoli always got on shorts, like sandals, a t-shirt. So you wouldn't know like that it's him, right? And he introduced, oh, this is Mike Rapoli, blah blah blah. And then he said the report, and like I said, this had been a couple of years after the Chapel Royal sister thing, right? And he said to Rapoli, I want you to meet this guy. He says, this is the guy that told me he had called the Philly name. This is the guy that told me such and such was not like Chapel Royal, and I didn't listen, and we bought her anyway. And Rapoli said, you know how much money that horse cost me? And I was surprised that he remembered that. But afterwards, I start hearing people say he have this memory, like even with the horses. Fletcher does. He have a memory for certain like horses, and I was surprised that he remembered that. And the guys. So then the three of us talking, and we we're at the burn, and George was there. So Rapoli said, so who do you like in the burn, right? And I said, well, there's two horses in here that I really, really like. Like, I mean, that I think could be any kind of horse, serious horse. He says, okay, what? But if you had to pick one, let's say I was going to buy one for you, which one would you pick? And one was a colt, one was a filly. He said, if you had to pick one, if I was going to buy one for you, which one would you pick? I said, I would take the filly. He said, okay, then in that case, I'm going to buy both. And the way the man said, Sean, is like, that's how people with money talk. One horse, the filly was $475, and the colt was $325. But just the way he said it was like, okay, that's how you roll when you got money, you know. So anyway, he bought both of them. The filly ended up going to the Belmont Stakes. The other one broke his maiden first time out, and then I think he got hurt. But they were both top class horses. So that's kind of how I built up my, rapport with Todd. So now again, we jump forward a few years now. When he come to the barn, I said, I didn't really like we didn't really have anything special. It was a March sale. Actually, I think Ocala. When I say we, I mean Ocala stud. I think we only had 4 horses, and they weren't what I consider Pletcher caliber, because I kind of know what he's looking for. Young horses that, probably gonna win quick and stuff like that. And we didn't really have anything that fit the bill at the time. That was probably one of Ocala stud's down sales, right?
But how do you, over the years though, I want to find out from you, how do you get that feeling and that know-how of what a good horse feels like?
Honestly, Sean, I don't know, but I noticed, even when I tell you when I was still riding, I used to go hunting 2-year-olds. I just always had that. I always had that thing that I could always find I could always.
Okay. Now that you said that,
I noticed I could feel it before they even breathe.
Yeah, but I want to talk now. I don't want to take away from things, but now you're talking about feeling that thing. What about that filly that won the Breeders' Cup that y'all were involved in? Talk about that.
Oh, do you mean Rhea Antonia? You mean the one that Ricky had?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me finish the other story first before I forget.
But get back to that. Anyway, I really want to hear that story.
So we didn't have Ocala Stud didn't have any horses, and I said to Todd, I said, listen, there's another consigner that have a horse that I breed. I said, just do me a favor and look at the horse. I said, look at the horse and tell me what you think. So right there and then, I didn't tell him that I owned the horse. I wanted him to go and look and tell me what he think, right? But then I never saw him again after that. And I never saw him again. Like, it was the day that she was going to sell. And I never, I told him, go and look. And I know that he went and looked because Bobby told me that he come by the barn. And I was like, I'm looking for him at the sale because I wanted to tell him I own this horse. Not that it was a secret anyway, because my name was down. Like, they could see that. Them guys, they're not stupid. They do all their homework. They know who did it. So they could see that I bought the horse, and even though she was bought after the ring, it showed how much I paid and stuff like that. But I wanted to tell him that's my horse. I didn't want him to think that, oh, you're pulling it fast. So but I couldn't find him. Long story short, then I bought her for $2,000, and then I'm buying her for $100,000. And she went to Saratoga, win first time out. Then she was third in the stake. Then she come back, she was stake split again. Then it was Guacamole, and then she kind of tail off from there. So that was the most fun I had. The best experience I had buying and selling. But as far as Rhea Antonio, Ricky picked that horse out. Ricky bought her for I think he bought her for $9,000 or something like that. I wasn't involved in the buying of her or nothing like that. But he took her to Ocala and started training her down at Classic Mile. And I'm still working for Ocala Stud, but I used to get on horses for Ricky too. And I remember getting on this filly, and I was like, huh, like this is not known. This ain't no normal horse, and she ain't even breathe yet. Just the way she galloped.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
this horse is not normal. I started telling Ricky about it. I said, like, this horse like could be like serious, right? And it was. I believe that it's hard for any trainer to see something before I can feel it. I'm on their back. I feel like so. I'm not taking anything away from Ricky, but in the early part of it, Ricky was like, why are you saying that? Like, she ain't even breathes yet. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, there's something about this filly that she different. And I said, she remind me of a Ocala stud type horse, which to me mean a lot, right? And I start telling George, which is this trainer Ocala stud, I said, George, Ricky have a filly over there that is better than any of the horses we have in the Mart sale, which is a select sale. I said, I think that horse is going to be a serious horse. And Ricky was thinking about putting her on the sale. And I talk him out of it. I said, Ricky, don't put her on the sale because she don't have the speed. Like the sale is like the name of the game is speed. If you don't breathe fast, you could still be a nice horse, but if you don't breathe fast, you're not going to get what you're worth. So he didn't put her in the sale. And he took her to Woodbine, and she just progressed and become this, like, just get better and better. Like, but I remember as she was progressing, and we got to Woodbine. After about 2 weeks on the poly track, she started leaning in. And I was like, she's not liking this track. And she kind of went through a rough patch, and it was kind of tough getting her. And she started like showing signs that we would go to like we're getting ready to go to the track to go through the tunnel, and she would stop. And like, it's like she was telling us something, right? But anyway, she ran and she won on a track that she didn't like just because she was better than them horses. But she kind of looked a little bit ordinary. Like, she didn't look special. But I kept telling Ricky I think it was the track. Then she was entered back in a stake, and some people offered Ricky some good money for her. And she was the first horse. And like I said, she wasn't mine. She was Ricky's horse, Ricky and Kyle's horse. She wasn't my horse. But she's the first horse I ever been around that I felt like, don't sell her. Because for me, everything's for sale. I don't really get attached to horses. It's very rare that I get attached to any horse. I always believe if you get offered money for a horse, take it. But she was like the first one where I felt like I think that was a mistake. And Ricky sold her. He got good money for her. But 2 starts later, she won the Breeders' Cup, but on dirt. Because they took her from Woodbine, they took her to New York, they run her in the Frizette. I think she was 4th, and then she run back in the Breeders' Cup. She got beat in nose, but she got impeded, so she got moved up. So like 2 starts later, she won the Breeders' Cup. So that was a bittersweet story for me, because I felt like he probably should have hung on to her.
What was that conversation like with you and Ricky?
It actually, being honest, it caused a problem between us. It caused a problem with me and Ricky, but I don't, after the time passed and stuff, I don't really think about it no more, because it's not like he gave her away for free. He got money for her, and he got decent. He didn't get what she was turned out to be worth, but he got good money for her. So it was his horse to sell, and I was sad to see her go, because I had I knew she was that type of horse, but she went from training fantastic at Classic Mile, and then we got to Woodbine, and she got on the poly, and she went from training fantastic to just training good.
Ordinary.
Yeah, she not, a little better than ordinary, but just she wasn't that wow thing. The wow factor was gone. So it kind of looked like she was just like she peaked and leveled off, but I knew it had something to do with the track.
I guess if you kind of suspect the talent that the horse got, and then you see it kind of digress a little bit like that, then you probably had that good feeling that
and she was showing me signs when I was galloping her too. She started doing stuff that horses. Listen, they got some horses that are just pain in the ass, and they're pain in the ass from the beginning. But when you have a horse that's usually straightforward and love to train and great, when they start doing odd things, they never do it for no reason. Horses don't just decide oh, I'm gonna start lugging in, or I'm gonna start lugging in. When a horse start doing that, they're trying to tell you something. People say horses don't talk, and maybe yeah, they don't talk, but they show you signs that you should follow. So
Right.
there's a lot of instances where they're trying to tell you something, but at the same time it's a business too, and like sometimes it's
What's her
So
hard.
name again,
someone,
Chris?
Huh?
What's her name again?
Ria Antonia.
Ray Antonia.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a
Uh,
question.
she was actually she was named after Ricky's wife. Maria's middle name. Maria is her
Okay.
middle name's Antonia. She was named
sounds really it's like that was like part of the family then. It's like a
yeah,
really
Maria
like a
Antonia.
really
It,
close
it was tough.
horse to the family.
It was tough when she was sold, but like I say, it's not like he didn't give her away. He got good money for her. So
I guess you and Ricky, you guys probably came through the same training, the same program, so he probably took that same route that you guys would probably take when dealing with horses.
um, yes and no. Like Ricky and Sean and them, like as far as riding, like you guys learn to ride at Melrose. I learned to ride on Emptage Pass there and Blackhead Pass there. So, we take different roads, but we all help each other along the way. But then when Ricky stopped um, racing, he went directly to work for Mark Cassie. Whereas I was never really that interested in being a trainer. That's not. I actually like once I quit racing in what was it 2016. I officially got my owner's license, and I like that part of it. I work with Kevin Buddygig here in Fort Erie, and Kevin and myself, Dean Springer and Peter Name, we have a little syndicate. We buy and sell and race and whatnot, right? But I never really was interested in becoming a trainer. I see the crap trainers have to go through dealing with owners and help and stuff like that. That don't appeal to me at all. That don't appeal to me. So
Wow, wow. That's quite a story, man. And coming from where you came from to where you are right now, I mean, like when you look back, Chris, I mean, it's even hard looking at you talking about retired. I was telling Sean something about retired and you, and Sean was like, take retire out of the headlines when it comes to Chris. It just don't feel right.
well, I retired from racing. I don't race anymore, but I still in the game. I still involved. Um, I still at the track I still go to the track. Last summer I was getting on 15, 16 horses a day. So I just don't race anymore because honestly I get tired of pulling the weight. Like it over the years it started wearing me down. Every year it was like harder to deal with it, and also like a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do for myself personally as a job, I had either already done it or accepted that it's not going to happen if I stay in forgery. And like I said, I was past the point where I feel like chasing stuff, and like I was content with the career that I had. Like we were talking earlier about like the first time I always wanted to be leading rider. When I started writing in Barbados, I wanted to be. Oh, I want to have the feeling of being a champion jockey, and I didn't care where it was. To be honest, I just wanted to have that feeling of a champion jockey, and I was able to do it at Forgery. The first time was in '95 and '96. I actually like I was still like after I won in '95. Like I said, I was on that. I was fired up. Like I felt the frustration was building over, and because I always felt like I can do this if I got the opportunity. So I was leading rider in '95. I remember I had like a really good year. Actually, I had such a good year. My agent got a call. I don't remember who it was that called him, but we were in the running. They have this thing called the Isaac Murphy Trophy, and it's for riders in North America that have ridden over 500 races and who have the highest win percentage. And it was named after this Isaac Murphy, who was a black rider from the 1800s. To this day, he probably still have the highest win percentage ever. He won like 44% of the races that he rode in. So they have this reward every year that they call it Isaac Murphy Trophy, and it's based on your win percentage. But to qualify, you had to ride over 500 races, and we got this call that we were in the top 5 of the run-in, right? And my agent come to me all excited. I had Rick, he all excited, and I got excited too. I said, well, who's the other riders? And there was a guy. Um, there was a guy at Finger Lakes. There was Pat Day was on the list, and Russell Bays was on the list. When I heard Russell Bays' name, I said, Rick, I said, you can forget that trophy. I said, we ain't getting that. I said, because Russell Beers was a race winning machine. Anybody know Russell Beers? He's the winningest rider in history. He win over 12,000 races. Every year his win percentage is at least 28. At the time mine was 25, right? So we were in the running, and it felt good to, to get that kind of call. And like I said, at that time I still had that desire to be leading rider, and I wanted to do it again in '96. And my big outfit by him on, Ralph had gone to Woodbine. Ralph left Porter and went to Woodbine, so I didn't have that big outfit, but I was still leading rider. When we started, it was me and a guy, actually a good friend of mine, Doug Gibbons. Him and I were battling for leading rider, and I got hurt, and I was out for the year. I got hurt in September, and then he went on to win. So then, because I wanted to win it more than once, I wanted to, at that time I still wanted to win it more than once. So come back in '97. So my goal was to get the title back, right? We were right. We start off the year and I'm ahead, but it's close. It's Doug and I going back and forth. And again, I got hurt, but nothing was broken, but I had bruised ribs. I'm not sure you ever had bruised ribs?
No.
Okay, so the ribs weren't broken. They were just bruised.
Yeah.
I wish they were broken, but they told me it was less pain. Sean, that was some pain. You couldn't, don't cough, don't sneeze, don't breathe too hard. So I missed 18 days, right? And in the 18 days that I missed, he got ahead of me, right? So, being an athlete, like the doctors kept telling me, oh, you can't get on horse about. But so I figured out, as long as my chest and ribs don't expand, I could do it. So what I do in the morning, I tape my whole torso, I tape up my ribs, put on my flat vest, and I went and I started galloping horses, and it was painful, but I realized I can tolerate it, right? So I said, I ain't listening to doctors. I started him back.
Yeah.
So in the afternoon now, with the vest, I make my vest real tight, and just because I was, when you're fit, you don't get as tired. So I would ride races to the point where you would get tired, but because the vest was squeezing me so tight, the ribs wouldn't expand. So I was able to start back riding. But I tell you what, it might not sound like a hard thing to do, but the toughest thing to me during that period was, a lot of people don't realize I allergic to horses. Bad, right? I really allergic to horses.
Really? Like, really?
Yeah. I allergic to horses. Yeah. So I always, when I'm around them, I always sniffling. Sniffling. And the sniffling was hurting me so bad, right? That was the worst part of dealing with the injury, because I allergic to them. I sniffling. Anyway, long story short, I started back riding. I missed 18 days, and Doug had gotten far ahead of me. Wow. We had enough time. We're creeping up. And then it come down to, we had 4 days left. It was Tuesday, then Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The last 4 days. And the award ceremony is the Thursday. So it's a Tuesday, the awards is on the Thursday, and then we had 3 days left.
Yeah.
And I was with 4 days to go, I was down by 10. I was still 10 behind, right? And the Tuesday morning, my agent come out of the office, fuming mad. I'm like, what are you so mad about? He went in the office and told them that they shouldn't give out the trophy because I'm only 10 down. And to this day, I don't even know if this story is true or not, or if he just tell it to me to piss me off or or whatever. So I don't even know if this story is true or not. But he come out, he mad as hell. He claimed he went in there and told them not to give out the trophy. And whoever he talked to said, oh, why not give it out? You're 10 behind. It's not like he could catch him anyway. And again, that's one of them moments where I say, sometimes things happen and I feel like I know what's going to happen. When he told me that, and it pissed me off too. So no, he mad. No, he got me mad, right? And I say, you know what? This is some bullshit, right? So that same Tuesday, I went 4. And Doug didn't win. And it's tough when you're a jockey. The guys that you're competing against often become your friends, right? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't about this. I don't know if it was, like I said, I don't know if this story is true. If he just tell me to get me fired up. But no, it's not about Doug. It's about whoever was in the office that said, "Oh, he can't catch him," right? And on top of that, I had some really, really live horses to ride. So, like I said, the Tuesday I win 4. So we got 3 days left, but your award ceremony is Thursday, and they decide they're giving him the trophy anyway. So we're sitting at the awards. They hand out the leading rider trophy. That at that time there was a trophy and there was a watch from the Boulevard Watch Company, and they give it to Doug both. And I sitting with my wife at the time, my ex, and my agent, and he's mad, right? He's still mad. And to this day, I still not sure if he's mad or if he's still trying to just fire me up, right? And I said to him, I said, man, like this is what they're doing is wrong. I said, this is bad. And he said, yeah, I agree. I said, no. I said, listen. I said, they put Doug in a bad position, right? I said, they shouldn't do this. They put him in a bad position. My agent said, what do you mean they put him in a bad position? I said, because they're giving him this trophy, going through all this. He's making a speech, and he's gonna lose. I said this is, and I kind of felt like Doug was a good guy, nice guy, right? And I felt like this is bullshit. What they're doing, they shouldn't do this to him because, here's this guy up there accepting his watch and the trophy and giving a speech, and you gonna have to give it back, right? So now, like, the award's over. We got 3 days left. I down by 6, and then in the next 3 days, I win 10 races, and he win 2, and he had to give back the trophy. And he had to give back the watch. And it was like, I was glad that I won, but I was
speech too.
Huh?
Did he give back his speech?
Did he have to give back his speech too?
Well, I didn't give back his speech, but but I felt good that I won. But at the same time, it take some of the joy out of it because I like this guy, but that I'm not gonna let that ain't gonna that I ain't like him enough not to beat him, I guess. Right? But I think that after that year. So now I'd done it twice, and I was like, okay, so that felt good, but it didn't feel as good as I realized it didn't feel as good as the first time because no, you're just repeating yourself. So it was like I kind of after that year, I kind of start focusing a little more on just writing and enjoying it, and like not being so. Cause it's stressful sometimes when you because when I was trying to be leading writer, I was locked on. I used to know who's writing who, all the other writers, how many rides they got, which live horses. I was like, it was like a 24-hour
Very
thing
competitive,
consuming
man.
me, right? Whereas when I kind of take a step back and stop chasing it, I start to realize I was actually having more fun writing. After 97, I started having more fun writing because I'm not obsessed with how many rides Doug got, how many rides this person got, how many rides I was just writing. I let my agent do the work, and I was enjoying it. And come 2001, I actually got a different agent, and I sat down. I told him the same thing. I said, listen, because even when I wasn't hustling as hard, obviously I still ride just as hard, but I wasn't consumed with it. I was still doing well. The casino was at 40. I was making more money than I need. Plus, I had a Ocala stud thing going on, and I was comfortable and happy, enjoying it. And now come 2001, I got a new agent. Name was Ian Watson. He was one of the best agents I ever had, actually. I had a couple of good agents. But I remember telling Ian, I said, listen, Ian, because Ian had Martin Ramirez too. I said, Ian, I got my people. I don't need you to kill yourself. I'm not trying to ride every race every day. And then with the weight issue too, I was like, I'm not trying to ride every race. I said, I just want to ride some good horses and win some races. He said, okay, no problem. 2 weeks into the meet, Martin get hurt. So now I'm the only rider he got. So now I got my people. Now all of a sudden I inherit all of Martin business. And before I look, I'm double the wins of the second guy. And I tell him this story because it's funny how sometimes you can, I spend before I was leading rider, I spent so many years trying to work hard, working, and nothing going nowhere. And then it finally catch. And then I was able to step back and take a breather and relax. And without even pushing that hard, here comes this opportunity again. That's why I say about opportunity. It don't matter. The most important thing is the opportunity, because even without trying, that year, that was the most races I won in 1 year at 48. And I kind of did it without the same obsessed mentality that I had before. And, I think I won that year. It was 128 races, and We had like it was either a 90-day meet or a 100-day meet or something, and that was just and like I said, he was a really good agent. Actually, he was such a good agent that it saved his life, and I'm gonna explain what I mean. This was the year after, but he was like clockwork. I didn't have to do anything. I would wait. He would call and wake me up in the morning, tell me you need to be here at 6:30, 7:30, blah, blah, tell me everything to do it. He would keep it to a certain limit, go home, Chris. Clockwork. And one morning, I woke up on my own. I was like, Ian didn't call me. I was like, that's odd, right? Because he always called me. So I only lived 3 minutes from the track, 4 minutes drive. I get dressed, drive and go to the track. The first barn I walk into was one of the guys that I deal with. And I was like, hey, you seen Ian? He said, no, I haven't seen him. He said, now that you mention that, it's funny because it's usually my first stop. I pick up my phone right away and I call Teal, who was my wife at the time. I said, Teal, go to Ian's house. Something have to be wrong. Because he'd never not called me, never missed a day. I never had to worry about, there was never a day where I get to the track before him. Mm-hmm. And when she went over there, he was passed out on the ground right by his door. The door was half open. He had a stroke. Wow. And he was trying to get out of the house. He had a stroke, and the paramedics went, and they said if he was there for another 20 minutes, he would have been dead.
Wow.
And so that was just because he was so focused and so locked in, I immediately knew
something had to be wrong.
Any of my other agents would have died, Sean. They would have died because, they were, Ian was like, that was his thing. He was just so routine and rigid about everything he do, and that saving his life. But so as the years went on, it just like I said, ended up being leading rider by a landslide, without the same. When I talk about the effort, I'm not talking about riding, because when the gates open, no matter what I ride hard. But the effort in the morning, I didn't have to work as hard. And that opportunity just fell into me because I already built up a clientele. And then Martin got hurt. He was one of the top riders. And then I got all of his people. So now all of a sudden, it just happened, right? And
whatever happened to him? I totally forgot about him.
Yeah. Ramirez?
Yeah.
He's in Florida. He owns some horses and stuff like that. He trying to be a trainer. And but he's in Miami.
So someone actually had a question for you. I'll let you see it. I don't know if you can see that. Or you need to put your glasses on there, Chris.
Oh, no, I can see how hard was it. Oh, at the bottom here. Yeah. Okay, how hard was the transition from being a jockey to being a spectator? It wasn't hard at all. When I sitting down, from being a jockey and starving to just sitting and even like. Talk about, like, I kind of always had like an interest in owning horses, and like I said, me and Dean and Peter Namey and Kevin Buddigay, the trainer, we have horses we own, but as far as being a spectator, it's obviously not as exciting. Even like we've had some horses in the last few years that were going up to Woodbine, and I knew they were going to win because I get on them every day. I get on them myself. I knew they were going to win. I didn't even go and watch. I haven't been to Woodbine in like 4 years. And we've had horses run there. It's just, I still watch, but it's not as exciting watching as, it's tough going from being in the action to just watching. But what I do enjoy, weirdly enough, is if it's a horse that I own, I realize when they're about to start, I kind of get this little excited, like a nervous kind of feeling. And it feels kind of good because I'm not sure why, but I never used to get nervous riding. So like that kind of feeling now, like, okay, so now I watch and I don't have any control. It's kind of fun, like to get that little bit of nervous feeling. So I kind of enjoyed that part of it, but I don't mind just watching races, but I definitely don't watch as much as I used to.
But okay, so you're not being a jockey, you're not riding them, but when your horse just missed, do you get that competitiveness still that you want to get back out there and want it to win?
No, because that means I got to start eating. So I honestly, like, I haven't ridden. I started racing in 2017, and there's been like maybe a handful of times where I thought like, oh, maybe I could ride, but never really enough. I never really had any. I don't miss it, being honest. Like I had my time and I enjoyed it, especially the last many years that rode was probably the most fun. Some of the most fun I had was a lot of the years when I was not leading rider, because I was
If you
just
look at the bottom of the screen, is that true?
yes, enjoy it. I scared. Who's this sending that? Huh?
I
Yeah,
don't know who it is, man, but somebody is very funny.
yes. I like everybody like Ice Cat from Tim Hortons. No, I don't. I don't. I feel like I said, the stuff that I wanted to do, you know, be leading writer. I was leading writer like 4 times or whatever. Like the stuff that I wanted to do, I've either done it or realized that it's not gonna happen. So I kind of content. Oh, that's Dean Springer. You don't go practice commentating. That's bothering me. No, Dean is like a brother to me. Dean Dean, I sure there's nothing on here that I talk about that he don't know already know. So, um, yeah, I content with what I was able to do, and like I said, the things that I didn't get to do, I know it's not gonna happen from Canada. From I would have to leave Canada to do them. So, and I ain't doing that. Like I said, I'm not gonna chase. I'm too old to be chasing dreams.
But
I'm
what I
gonna
ask
say
you
too, you
know,
know,
Huh?
go ahead, Sean.
your friendship with the guys in Barbados and stuff. I'm seeing Rocco seem to have a lot of friends around him too from Barbados. How important has that been in your journey?
Very important. I have the same good friends that I had when I left Barbados.
Mhm.
I mean, I added a few since I've been in Canada, but I still have the same good
Crew.
friends when I left. When I left Barbados, my good friends were Neil Brewster, Dean, Ted Holder, Sil, and I still close to all them guys. Even if I don't see them, like I haven't seen Neil Brewster. Neil live in England. I ain't seen
Mhm.
Neil in years, like face to face. But
Mhm.
every now and then we would Facebook or
Mhm.
whatever to have a chat, and it's like I see him the day before, and
Mhm.
Ted is up here. Ted had a great year last year.
Yes.
Ted won a decent amount of races, and more importantly, he won races with the horses that he owned himself. So
Yes.
that's a big difference, right?
Yes. Of course.
And but and I still like I said, Dean and I we got the syndicate going, Peter Naomi and stuff like that. So I basically got and then Slade. I drive the last many years. Slade and I drive back and forth the horses because Slade have a shipping company, right?
Hmm.
And we drive back and forth. So I got the same friends that I had.
You live in Fort Erie also?
No, Slade live in Bolton, just outside. Just Slade live about 40 minutes from Woodbine or so.
Hmm.
But Slade's primarily in Toronto. But I still got the same friends from back then.
Well, as a horseman, I mean, you always been a horseman, and you're transitioning from jockey to owner, like complete owner now, and stuff like that. And Sean himself been she's jockey, trainer, owner, and Ricky the same thing, and a bunch of other guys doing the same thing. I mean, like, how important is it for you guys to form that union to really build this horseman industry from the guys from Barbados, just to make it into something. Let those guys know that they can actually do something. Sean's always preaching this: do something else besides trying to be a jockey, and it doesn't work out.
Well, the beauty about being in North America, like there's a lot of different ways in this industry to make money. And I always try to tell, especially the guys that come up from Barbados, like there's always guys that you always have your group of friends. I said, if you're gonna be in this game, it's hard to really make serious money if you're just working for people all the time.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to do something for yourself. You're in it anyway. You're doing the job anyway. You might as well find ways to do it for yourself. You can still work for somebody, but you can have your little horse on the side, or you could get a group of guys. put together and get a decent syndicate and take a chance. You're doing it anyway. You can't just keep working for other people. You know, you gotta make an effort to try and do something for yourself.
I think
I
those are
think use
wise.
that word evolve. You gotta evolve, man.
Yeah, you gotta evolve. You can't be too stagnant.
Now,
And
is there any other jockeys that you stay in contact with at Fort Erie, or you try to like help along as you've retired from being a jockey right now? Is there anyone that you put underneath your wing?
not really. I always, if people ask me for advice, I would give it, but I'm not really one to like just take it upon myself to, because some people don't take criticism well, or some people don't take advice, or they might take advice as criticism, even if sometimes it is criticism. But if somebody want to ask me something, I would answer, but I don't usually just take it upon myself to say, even some I seen like even some of the guys that are here now,
I just
maybe not doing the right thing, but unless they were to ask me, I wouldn't tell them.
I know this is like a family connection right about now, making me smile actually, making me feel a little bit emotional. But Lana, she's saying Ricky is watching right now. I don't know what that means to you guys, but it
That's my sister.
means
That would be my sister,
I
Lana.
I
That's
kind of
from
understand that, and but she just sent me a message to let you guys know that Ricky's watching. I'm pretty sure he's really proud of you right now.
well, Ricky
Well,
going through I don't know what to call it, like a terrible situation. Like he have a really nasty, vicious disease, and he's it doesn't affect his mind, but it's really taking a toll on his body. So I'm glad he's watching. I actually I asked him, I before I did the show, I text with him, I asked him if there's anything he wanted me to mention, but Ricky being Ricky, he just said, "Nah, don't tell me to just do my thing." So he
I
didn't.
send him the link every week.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
So I'm happy that
So
he's watching, man.
he's going through a struggle now, but like I
Yeah.
said,
Well, Ricky, if you're watching, I wish you all the best, man. And I say this over and over and over because my memory, my wife would probably say, "Oh, your memory ain't that good," but my memory is pretty good. And the first time I ever met him, it was like this. We talked like if I knew him all my life. And for guys that have that relationship, or if you have that kind of rapport with someone, I feel it's very important that it stands out because not everyone is good at just having that kind of conversation and relationship like that with people, just like that, people's
But
person.
one thing I gotta say about Ricky is that when when I came here in '98, I came. Ricky invited me to his wedding, right? I was the best man at Ricky's wedding in November of '98. And
88.
sorry, '88. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
You're
steal
trying to
10
cheat.
years.
You're trying to cheat 10 years, huh?
But I remember Ricky was staying at Robbie King's house. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was staying there too. It was myself, Ricky, and Jason King.
Yeah.
We were all
But
living at Robbie place.
what I'm trying to say is that just 1 year after Ricky came there in '97, right?
Hmm.
Ricky managed to have the confidence of Robbie King to go. Robbie King is out of the country, and he left Ricky in his house. You know what I mean, to look after his house when he's gone. So when I got there, I said to myself, I said, Griff, this guy gonna leave you with his house. I mean, so I just wonder how he made friends with this guy so fast. It was. But Ricky, one thing I can say about Griff had that smooth way that he would get along with everybody. He made friends quick, but don't cross him though. You know what I mean? Don't cross him.
But it's funny because Ricky
He
really
was
is smooth,
short.
He really is smooth because I remember
Yeah,
when he was assistant to Cassie, and
yeah.
I see him. going up the stairs, and I said, me and my buddy was down there. We went over there. I think it was a Sunday or something. I said, Ricky, what you think about think about this horse? And Ricky looked me in the face and said, should do well. The horse ran probably about sixth or seventh or something, but he just was smooth the way how he did it.
No, but
But
Ricky,
Sean, like I tell you at the beginning of the show, like about how everybody or Ricky ruled, everybody that come here since the '80s or Ricky, that even this show now, we won't have anything to talk about if everything that we talk about is everything that happened since he come to Canada. So
it's true. No,
you know,
that's
some
another
people,
thing, Chris. Now, if these guys didn't come to Canada, what do you think would happen to a lot of us?
I don't even want to think about that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess there wasn't a lot to do. I mean, being a jockey in Barbados is a very, very low ceiling. Like I talked to you earlier about, like I was, I bought my first house when I was 24. Like that can't happen in Barbados for a jockey.
No,
You can't. That
no,
can't happen for a jockey. Like
no.
like it's just like a really low ceiling. Like it was a blessing that we had another avenue to get out and and not just jockeys, even like I mean, Farley, like if you're an exercise rider in Barbados, I mean, Jesus, you're probably still living at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you got guys that come up here and just gallop or run horses in the afternoon, or there's a lot of different ways to make money up here that you just can't
Because
do
guys
it.
sit on horses all day,
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
30
And, like,
horses a day.
I mean, if you don't, you can get on horses or get on horses in the morning and afternoon. You can run horses for people, and like there's a lot of guys come up here that aren't jockeys that still make good money.
You hear that? You heard what Randy Thompson just said? Griff sold his horse 2 weeks ago. Griff's still working, man.
Yeah, I know. I talked to him. I've been talking, well, not talking, texting, and he's been telling me some of the stuff that he's been up to and that. So
But that's amazing though.
yeah, no, he's still active.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful, man. That's
No,
wonderful.
like man, it's still in the game, which is excellent, man. I mean, but he's a strong man, and watch strong men keep going. You know what I mean?
Someone asked earlier, I guess I can pull it up, but what's next for you, Chris? And I guess it's ownership, but is there anything else that because you're still young. I mean, you're not writing, but you're still young. So
You mean what's next for me as far as horse racing?
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, no, I comfortable with. I'm probably gonna gallop. I don't know, like I don't know how much longer. Like I said last year, I got on so many horses last year, Sean. I hope Kevin Buddigig not watching because I had to keep it a secret from him that I was down to riding weight without I was getting on 14, 15, 16 horses a day. And I couldn't even let Kevin know because he always begging me to ride. But I think I think I had enough of the riding. Like I'm comfortable with how much I rode. So I think I can just gallop until I don't feel like galloping anymore. And
But what about the injuries though? Are the injuries bothering you anyway?
overall, I consider myself lucky. I actually never had I had fractures. I never had a clean break. I had a couple of fractures in each leg and my wrist and ankle, but I never had I was pretty lucky as far as injuries go. So I can't really complain about injuries.
Okay,
Just
so you're not too bad then.
no, it's not too bad. I mean, like anybody else that get on horses, you always got your back hurting here or something, or especially when you pass the big 5-0, which
But
which for me is 20 years from now. But
I gotta probably say to you that for areas is probably is what making you feel so young because I can only imagine for Erie the lifestyle compared to Toronto is a little bit different.
it's very laid back, very
I
laid.
mean, I love that region too.
Yeah, I love living. I honestly, I've never been anywhere else where I felt more comfortable than being in Fort Erie. I just like living down here. Just it's a small town, but 5 minutes across the border is big city Buffalo if you want to go, which I don't, or Niagara Falls, just 10 minutes up the road. So it's a perfect location for me, and I just like living here.
That's beautiful, man.
Put
Really
it
Very
this
good.
way,
beautiful.
Someone
Sean,
share
put it
that.
this way. If you ever hear that I'm about a forgery, you should call me and ask me what happened. Something wrong. Just put it that way.
How about like from the first year or first years coming from Barbados to now, and the cold weather, and the bigger city, well, big, I mean, compared to Barbados, but all that together, and how you've evolved and grown, like,
Well, they lied to me about the cold weather, because when I first come, everybody told me, "Oh, don't worry, you're gonna get used to it." Bunch of liars say, "Oh, we're," because I still used to it. It's still cold.
lies.
So that part they lied to me about. I mean, but the Canadians are in. I would say in all my years here, I don't remember who you was talking to, but you talk about the different vibe when you cross the border.
Mhm.
Canadians overall, I would say 98% of the Canadians that I've met have been very, very friendly people. There's the other two
Yes,
percent. You want me to call the
I
names
agree.
of the 2%, or don't? The other 2% that are, for lack of a better word, not so nice. You want me to call the names, or no? I probably shouldn't. I'm not gonna.
Let's leave the
I'm not gonna
names
call them.
in the pocket.
But for the most part, Canada overall has been pretty good to me and most Barbadians. Like I think
But
they've
Chris,
been.
me and you have dealt with some of those issues in Fort here itself. You know what I mean? In the
Yeah,
past.
yeah, oh
So
yeah, yeah,
when they faced us, we went to the problem. You
yeah,
know.
and that's usually
So
the
we,
best way to deal with it.
yeah, I mean, when Chris would tell me, Sean, Chris would call me and say, Sean, you my just man, but he call him man this. I say, like, I work for you too, you Sean. I said, what? We go to
Yeah,
that guy and we talk,
yeah,
you
you
know.
have a
But you
conversation.
got, yeah, we got to deal with them things though.
But
Yeah,
like sometimes you can't just wait for the door to open. You gotta break them down. You know.
well,
Yeah, but
by the time most of us, like like I said, Ricky came first, and I don't know if I would say he break down the door, but they definitely know he was knocking. So
Mhm.
it was a lot easier for the rest of us when we came.
yeah,
Like, sometimes I think if there was anything that I might have changed, and like I said, I wasn't aware of it back then, like you starting this thing or you're opening doors for other people. But in hindsight, I probably, if I knew it was gonna lead to this, I probably would have waited and not be one of the first, because it's always easier for the guys that come in behind.
mm,
I always find like it's like now for all the guys that come in here, they don't really have to explain, oh, where Barbados is, or they got horse racing there, or was it like everybody here now know everything about Barbados. Whereas when
All
you
right.
first come, and like you're and like I said, we weren't aware of it back then, but you opening a new doors, and people asking about Barbados and how close it is to Jamaica, and like people didn't know nothing about Barbados really, or very few people anyway. And now everybody know about Barbados and Barbadians. I mean,
no,
as far as the racetrack is concerned up here, and not just Ontario. Like you look at guys like Quincy Welch and Rico Walcott and Ricky
mhm.
when he was there, and then the guys in Winnipeg. Like Barbadians have done well
Enough guys.
pretty much at every track except for Hastings. Like
Mhm.
I don't know I don't know why Hastings. I don't know why we never. I don't know why nobody ever really took off of that Hastings. But
Mhm.
every other track in Canada, Barbadians have done well. So there's nothing new about coming here anymore. It's already, like you said, the door definitely. I think the door off the hinges now.
Mm.
It's all open.
Yeah.
What I ask you though, did riding at the garrison help you when you got to Fort Erie or to the bigger tracks, riding at the garrison, or not
Yeah,
really?
definitely, because the garrison is a I don't know if I say difficult. It might not be difficult for me because I started there, but compared to the tracks in North America, is a different track to ride because it's a difficult track to ride because you have to be steering all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be steering all the time. There's more turns, there's tighter turns. It's not as wide. The guys ride tighter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it coming from there and coming here. It's a lot easier to ride these tracks. What I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. It's easier.
And plus, you got the community factor too, the crowd, the pressure, the friends,
Yeah.
all these things
Yeah.
that going on too, right?
There's some definite. Even when I started writing, I felt a little bit of pressure too because my dad was a jockey and Ricky was a jockey. Ricky recently be champion. As a matter of fact, listen, tell you a story. My very first ride, Sean, and I going on to start writing Sweet Lady, and a man tell me, "Your father was a crook, your brother's a crook, and you're gonna be a crook too." I said, I said "You never let me get in the gate yet, and you already labeled me, right?" I said, "What the hell?" I said, "What the hell?" But I felt like some pressure, a little bit of pressure because they were jockeys and they all did well, and I said, "Jesus, my first ride, this man didn't even let me get to the starting gate. Yeah, he already got me labeled."
I
Now look,
know. I know.
I
Back in
can't
our
I
time,
feel
the
me
crowd, the
now.
crowd
That
used to be
couldn't be me.
harsh, man.
Huh?
I don't know if they're still harsh like back in those days, but I mean, I my friend Kerry DePassi, he likes. I told him a joke one time. A man told me, Sean Hall, your name is Sean Hall, your name is Shite Hall. He said, you're the real Shite
But
Hall.
back
So,
at the time, I think it's funny now, but at the time, I was a little annoyed.
mhm.
So, but it was a good journey. I can't really complain.
Hmm.
Can't complain.
It's
Well,
great, man.
um, before I forget, you were talking about Barbados. You're talking about Fort Erie, and they know exactly where Barbados is. They
Now,
know who the Bajans are. Are you teaching them any Bajan slang, Bajan talk? What are you doing down there?
no, you know what? It's funny because I guess being here so long, unless I talking to another Bajan, I slip in and out of my Canadian voice fairly easy. Like without even, it's like automatic now.
Yeah, that's yeah. We know that because that's how it goes.
You live here too, so
That's exactly how it goes.
if we just talk Beijing ding and ding and I remember I took Donnie McCray, right, Sean?
Yeah.
Donnie's a buddy of mine, and I took Donnie. Me and Donnie went to Patrick house one there to just hang out. Patrick already, right?
Yeah.
So we sitting down, it's me, Patrick, and Donnie, and we're talking, and Patrick talking pure Beijing to me, pure Beijing, right? And we talking back, and then Patrick get it to go and say to come back. I remember he left the table, and Donnie leaned over and said, "I don't understand anything he says." And I just thought it was funny because three of us sitting down in a conversation, and when you're talking to another Bajan, you kind of slip in and out. Sometimes they don't realize it. And Donnie sit there for like 20 minutes and they understand a single word we was talking about. I always remember that. So you always got to be mindful. Even now talking,
You
like I
gotta
got to
slow down.
remind myself sometimes that okay, there might be Canadians listening or whatever. They might not know
Mhm.
what the hell I'm saying.
But don't fool yourself, even the Jamaicans had used to have trouble listening to us because I remember working with Laurie Severe when we
Yeah,
had
I think they gotta get used to us too.
yeah, we had three other Bajans and myself at four. And when the Jamaicans and the Bajans started to cuss one another and back and forth, I remember Laurie Severe used to just stand there and look at us like like this puzzled look on his face, like what are these guys saying? Because when you get us rolled up and vexed, we can start, you know what I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
going off. But one thing I've learned though, one thing I'm learning, the Jamaicans here in Barbados, they cuss sweeter than anybody because now they got all cuss words
Oh,
mastered.
they're mixing it.
They got it. No, before I used to hang with Courtney Walsh and them, and them, no, it's Courtney Walsh used to try to cuss say like a bit because we used to sound very wrong. But
Yeah.
these Jamaicans here now, so been here so long now, they add their own twang to our cuss words. Like, they sound better than us now, man. It's
It's
amazing.
called evolving,
Listen,
Sean.
I gotta,
Evolving.
Sean, I don't know how long we've been talking. I gotta get the charger for this computer. The computer like tired of listening to me. Let me grab it. Let me grab it in a second.
Yeah, you do your thing because I definitely know Chris want to set that record. You talked about that record that Leroy set last week, but he said, Chris, I think you can break this record this week, man.
Well, he's going very comfortable about
Sean,
it.
Sean, how long we talking now?
2 hours and 26 minutes.
How much?
2 hours and 26 minutes.
Oh God, I gotta send you a bill, boy. That's a lot of talk. That's a good job.
But when you sit down with us, we seem to get things out of people and just you just flow, and you don't even realize the time is flowing. Also,
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, this man is a champion jockey. This man have like numerous things under his belt. He can talk till morning. I'm
Yes,
sure he got
yes.
stories on top of stories he want to tell us
Yes.
about. He want the public to know about.
I got some stories. I know Sean might not want the public to know about too.
What I do now?
No, we ain't gonna go down. There's a family show. We ain't going down that road.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh Lord!
Oh man.
You know,
I gotta say, now
You start sweating right away.
now this is March. April is just around the corner. How excited are you
For
for racing season here in Canada?
you want the truth?
Yes.
Not that excited. Like I said, being a spectator is not the same as riding. You know.
Why is that? Is it because it brings back too much memories, or you just
No, it's just the level of excitement is not the same, and even like just because I've rode, like it's different when you're in the race, and other than that little nervous feeling I get if one of my horses riding, it's just not the same. But even as a fan, but man, when I was younger, like I would do anything to watch a horse race. Now there's so much accessibility to races and stuff. It's like I find I don't watch them as much as like even like like Breeders' Cup coming up and stuff like that. It isn't until sometimes it's not until real close that I really get. I used to know all the horses that are going to be in the Breeders' Cup from all year. Now I find like I'm not as big a fan as I used to be. Like I don't pay as much attention all year like I used to. But it's just different. And, it's just different. I guess like been doing it for so long. I would be lying if I say I have the same passion. Like, like the word fan come like you're fanatic. I wouldn't consider myself a fanatic like I used to be. I still love horse racing. Pretty much everything that I have, one way or the other, it comes from horses. Like. So I still love the game. It's just not the same. It's like it's a more hands-off kind of thing. Like I don't watch races every day. I could drive to the track in 3 minutes. I don't go to races every day. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if I went to races last year at all with COVID and all that stuff, but
COVID is a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I still like. But I still like going and getting on horses. I especially like working with young horses. I like if we buy young horses and you're bringing them along and trying to get them ready to run or to sell. Like that's not something I've been doing my whole life. So I still find that exciting. Whereas like racing, I've been, I started riding. I was 16 when I started riding, and I rode till I was 47 or something. So
man, I'm thinking that you're still a young man. You're 47 and retired at 2016. Chris, you're not that young.
I was gonna say I never claimed to be that young, but that would be a lie too. Because no, I'm not. I've been at it for a while, man.
If you had to do anything, if you're looking back now to change anything, what would it be?
If I had to change anything,
Yeah.
it's hard to say if I would change anything, but like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I feel like I might not have had to struggle for so long to kind of get that opportunity if I wasn't one of the first to come. Like I feel like the guys that came after, the way was already kind of paved, and they didn't have to wait as long
All
to
right,
get that
but
break.
saying that, Ricky, how Ricky had to struggle a little bit too at Woodbine, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't there.
Ricky was never as successful as Woodbine as his talent should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky should have been leading rider at Woodbine, and I can say the same thing. I mean, Emil ended up being leading rider, but when Emil came, Emil couldn't buy him out. Emil should have been leading rider before he was leading rider, and Ricky should have been leading rider at Woodbine, given the opportunity. And I could say the same thing for a few other Barbadians that came along. It's just like I say, it's without the opportunity, it's just not there. Like I tell you, when I first come to Canada, I was trying to get the feel of everything, and looking at jockeys, and I studied jockeys a lot. When I looked at who was there, like I said, there were some good riders. Sandy obviously was Sandy, right? And there were some other good riders, Robbie King, Dawes, and a few other guys, but none of them guys, I can't say that any of them were better than Ricky, and he wasn't as successful as he should have been. That's another case too. Another case, like maybe if he wasn't the first to come.
I remember one time. Yeah, but I remember one time Ricky had a fall. I broke his collarbone at Greenwood, right? And I remember being at the hospital with him, and Robert Landry came by, right? Robert Landry.
He's a good guy. Landry's a good guy.
Robert Landry's a good guy. And I remember, I'm freshly in Canada myself too. Griffith on break his collarbone. I think Griffith was doing well too. Griffith, he was leading that year too. You know what I mean?
He was doing good at Greenwood. He was doing really good at Greenwood. I think he was like third at the time. Greenwood was short, right? He was like second or third.
But he was doing well. He was up in there, he was up in there. So I got at the hospital with him, and Robert Landry came by, and I remember Robert Landry talking to me, and he said, Sean, he said, this guy Ricky Griffith, man, he said, if I could finish on a horse like him, I'd be such a better rider. You know what I mean? He said, I think I do a good job placing and that's all, but my finish isn't that great. He said, if I could ever learn to get in a horse like Griff. And I always remember that, man. I always remember, and Robert Landry went on to do pretty well.
He was leading rider a couple of years.
Yeah.
He was leading rider for a couple of years. But the one, I mean, you talk about Landry, like, people talk about,
when we were in Canada.
Huh? What did you say, Sean?
No, I remember that very well. I always remember that.
You see, Landry is one of them guys. Like, when I got to Canada, I realized there's a lot more to being a jockey than just like in Barbados, we put a lot of emphasis on your balance and looking neat and looking pretty and being strong. Those are all good things to have, but I realized when I get to Canada, there's a lot of guys that didn't have that if they're on their best horse, they're gonna still cut your ass because they might not look pretty, but they might have the head, they know the pace. Technically they can ride a good race without looking pretty. Landry wasn't the prettiest rider, Larry a third, but these guys had other attributes that make them successful. Landry was a workaholic. Same thing with Larry a third. Like some guys, there's a lot of different ways that, especially up here, there's a lot of different ways that a rider can be successful. There's a lot of guys riding. That was one of the frustrations for me too, until I start to really realize there was a lot of guys when I was trying to get a break at Woodbine that I knew I was better than them. I knew it. But without the opportunity that some of them had, but they also had something to offer to. So when they got the opportunity, so even if I felt like, or I know like I wasn't better than them, it didn't stop them from being successful with what they had. There was guys that work really hard, very, very likable. Like there's other ways up here that you could succeed other than what when I left Barbados, what I thought was just the be all and end all. Like you can look good and have good balance and be strong and this and that. But you when you get up here, you gotta match that with hard work. You gotta be professional, you gotta be personable. Like you can't just have that. You know what I mean? Like there's other parts of being a jockey that could make you successful. And
So
some guys had that.
in other words, people got to know you, and you gotta let it get out there, to
Yeah.
be that person.
And you gotta be ready. When you get your opportunity, you gotta be ready because everybody don't get it.
That's
But
right.
another thing that bugs me about a lot, I like being in Barbados and seeing you guys doing so well overseas. There's six you guys who won over 1,000 races so far. Six of you, right? And I want to know if the government of this country is going to ever recognize you guys for doing that. Like how Charlie Jones and Venice Richards were recognized for that, winning the same 1,000 races in the region. Now you guys have done it now on the international, and you don't hear nobody saying anything about it, man. You know what I mean? And that kind of Patrick now won close to 4,000 races.
Yeah.
They give him a Barbados star or something like that. But Lord have mercy, the man's won. You know what I mean? So much races.
As a
Quincy Welch is now sitting just 25 off 2,000.
yeah, because he won a lot of races, a lot of races. But
He's won a lot of races.
yeah, I don't miss.
Ricky Walker won so much races for just like 5,000 rides. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had a really high win percentage.
So I want to know. Yeah, he got a real high percentage. So I just want to know in the future. You know what I mean? I hope somebody pay attention to you guys who've done so well for Barbados. You put Barbados were. I mean, wherever you
Hey,
were, which track, people. Pardon me?
What?
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I didn't hear
I
you.
thought you were cutting out there. I was going to jump right in.
So I mean, yeah, wherever you guys, which track you are, you put Barbados on the map, big time,
I mean,
and there's millions of people knowing who you are. And I hope that eventually, sometime in the future, something is done for you guys that have won over 1,000 races in North America.
well, I'll be honest, Sean. It would be nice. I don't know how the other guys would feel, but to be honest, Sean, for me personally, I speaking for myself. One of the things I learned probably early on to make me successful is, Sean, I honestly do not care what people that I don't know or I don't consider somebody that I value. I honestly do not care what they think. So it would be nice to be recognized, but I would not lose 30 seconds of sleep over it. Because I know that the people like, I'm from Burden Hill. I still got friends in Burden Hill. Burden Hill is full of fanatics. I got, like guys that I grew up with. That I know that they know I do something. That a lot of us start wanting to be jockeys. And some of us that were small enough to do it. The ones that had the opportunity to do it, did it. The others got too big. But I grew up with a lot of guys in Burden Hill that we all wanted to be jockeys. So I know that they recognize what I do. So as far as the government, and I'm speaking for myself because I don't want to, deter anybody if something like that means something to them. But I really don't care about that. I don't care about that stuff because I know there's too much fake stuff going on with that kind of thing. And
True.
how much does it really mean? Like I really couldn't care less about that kind of stuff. I only worry about the people that I know or people that are close to me or somebody that like my friends or family or whatever, if they recognize me, that's all that matters. I really couldn't give two shits what they
I got you, man.
say to do.
Now let's shift gears a little bit. So besides who I guess Sean and Ricky, um, were there any other jockeys that you looked up to when you were coming along, like when you were
Oh,
before you busted out?
for sure. I mean, like even local guy. I always try to take something from everybody. Even when I was starting, so Venice was still riding. Obviously, Ricky, Sean, there's Jeffrey Brown, and then some of my friends that were apprentices also with me at the same time. Neil Brewster was a quick learner apprentice. Neil was doing well. Slade was doing well, and I always try to take something from everybody. But outside of that, my mom lives in New York, right? And I used to go visit her every summer. And what I would do is when I was in New York, I would go to the races at usually Belmont, and it would usually be Cordero. And no matter what horse he ride, I would just watch him. I would just watch him and watch him. And if he's not in the race, I would probably watch Santos or Velasquez or something. And you just try to like find something that I can use. I think my writing or whatever it was is a combination of a lot of different people, and not just the afternoon stuff. Like there's guys that I remember, like I take for instance a guy like Jeffrey Brown. I used to always wonder, man, how this guy get these horses to relax like that? Whatever any horse he get on, like he just get them to relax. So stuff like that I would pay attention to and try to like really watch, because getting a horse to relax is like one of the best things you can do. Like you don't want to be.
He had good hands though.
Yeah.
He was really strong in his wrist. I think he
Yeah,
suggested
like he was, but he had a way. You had a way, and I used to
really
pay attention to
strong.
like so guys like that, and like there's a lot. Man, Barbados had a lot of good riders, still do, even though I don't know some of their names. But I watched them. I could see. I watch riders long enough that I can look and see who have talent. A lot of people, the majority of people in this game, cannot tell a good rider until they've had success. Like they can't tell. Like if Jose Ortiz was still riding in Puerto Rico, they wouldn't know he's good. But because he's riding at Belmont, oh, this guy can ride. Like that's not the way to tell a good rider. If you can only tell a good rider when you see them get to a certain level, then you actually, as much of a fan as you think you are, you actually don't know what you're looking at. Because if you know a good rider, it shouldn't matter if he's riding a donkey going up Dalkeith Hill. You should still know that, man, that guy can ride. And most people don't have that.
So you mentioned the Ortiz guys, and we always know the top guys in the big tracks. Now, is there something that you could, if you could do this all over again, and this is for mainly younger jockeys, what would you tell them? Because nobody would know Ortiz guys. We say Ortiz brothers because they're winning. They're at the big tracks, and you spoke about Angel in the earlier times. Like, I know you figure this out now because now you're more mature, but there must be something that jockeys gotta do in order to get that highlight and that spotlight on them, besides winning or getting all the good mounts. But there's something else because everybody can pretty much ride. You know what I mean?
You just made a good. There's good jockeys at every single track in North America. Every single track. The good ones make use of the opportunity when it comes along. That's the key to being successful, is getting the opportunity, because I don't even remember where I hear it, but there's a reason that this sport is called horse racing. It ain't jockey racing. It ain't trainer racing. It's not going racing. Without the horse, you ain't going nowhere. I remember I think it was Kent Lane. Kent have a group there, and that kid Jalon Samuel had won a race in Belmont or something, and he beat one of the Ortiz boys. And I like to read that. I love how Bajan fans just carry on, the passion and the arguing and keeping noise. I like that sort of thing. That entertainment for me made me laugh. So I was reading some of the stuff on there, and I found it entertaining. But I was like, why is everybody? It was good that the kid won. He beat Ortiz, But why everybody acting like this so surprised? Like, it's not like this kid can't ride. He won like a bunch of gold cups. Why are you surprised that he can beat the Ortiz? Any day that he have a better horse than the Ortiz, he's gonna beat him. Riders get to a certain level where, Sean, you can pick all the riders you want if decent riders. 99% of the time, the guy that got the best horse, once you get to a certain level, unless something unforeseen happen, he gonna cut your ass if you got the best horse. Jalon Samuel supposed to beat the Ortiz boys if he on a better horse. It's no surprise. I wish people in Barbados would stop acting like they're so surprised when somebody do something. It's just like this kid had an opportunity. He was on a better horse and he won. If he rides the same horse that the Ortiz boys have, he's gonna have the same success.
Yeah, but in the mid-80s, Ricky did the same thing with Andrew Cordero. Griff beat
Exactly.
Andrew Cordero no job. You remember that?
Yeah, exactly. And that is that, and he would probably do it every day if he had the opportunity to do it every day. You need the opportunity. Like, people have this thing about Hispanic writers and they're this and they're that. I like to look at things on both sides, the flip sides. Yes, Hispanic writers are good and they've been good for a long time. But look at every track in North America. Look at the five guys at the bottom and tell me if all five of them are Hispanic at almost every single track. So it's not just that they're all good, don't get fooled. They're not all good. It's just that there's so many of them. The majority of the riders in the States are Hispanic riders. So the majority of the guys at the top are going to be Hispanic riders. But don't put them above Bajans just because they're getting all the opportunities. Like I said, look at the list. The ones that can't ride at the bottom, them speaking Spanish too, right? Them at the back taking dirt and speaking Spanish. So it's not, don't just put them, people have this thing where they automatically assume Hispanic riders better. That's crap. The numbers are higher. They have more opportunity. They're already entrenched. Bajans don't get that opportunity. You think if Jalon Samuel whenever race is riding, if you think they switch mounts, put one of the Ortiz or whoever on Jalon horses and put Jalon on them, you think he ain't gonna win them same races? People need to like start treating Bajan riders the same they treat Bajan cricketers. Bajans never had any doubt about how good Barbados cricketers are. But when it comes to jockeys, for some reason they think like, oh, the Englishman better or this, but man, that's crap.
Now the mere fact that you keep saying the Ortiz brothers or whoever,
because they're high profile guys,
right? So this is exactly where we want the Barbadian jockeys to get to that level too.
They gotta get the opportunity.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this also, and bring more spotlight to them.
Yeah. You just need the break. That's it.
I mean, and there's a lot of horsemen, and we talk to so many people, and
Barbados. He's doing it.
Yeah, and it's like you talk about Barbados, like how many jockeys really? Like, how many Barbados ain't got that many jockeys. Like if you take them and put them on the grand scale, like if you added the amount of Bajan jockeys versus the amount of jockeys, even just Puerto Rico alone, our numbers can't even compare. And that's just Puerto Rico. I'm not talking about the Mexicans, Panamanians, the Peruvians. Like, there's so many Hispanic riders and not only just riders, they have a whole foundation. They got Hispanic riders, Hispanic owners, trainers. They're entrenched. So when people have this thing about, we talk about Hispanic riders like they're just inherently better than Bajans, it's BS.
Well, I'm sure those Hispanic riders, they don't. Well, as a matter of fact, I don't know, but you think they categorize themselves as just in one bracket, or they categorize themselves into countries?
They definitely don't.
It's just riding.
Yeah, no. Those guys, and I kind of figured that out when how some Jamaicans don't like being called a Bajan don't like being called a Jamaican. Them guys have the same thing. You call a Mexican or a Guatemalan, they get offended too. So
yes,
other people see them as one group, but among themselves they don't see it that way.
That's right.
And they all speak differently. They all sound like Spanish to us, but I do know some Spanish, and like from being around the guys in Florida and stuff, I can tell the difference between like a Puerto Rican and a Mexican. They sound different, just like a Bajan and Jamaican sound different. So it's other people that lump them into one Hispanic group, but they're different.
Well, you know, what's next for Chris? Chris is just gonna relax and
What's next for me is
just make some money from off horses.
next for me, I gonna sleep.
Listen, look, I'm gonna let Sean do the dirty work because every time I always get cussed for saying, "Let them talk, let them talk, let them talk."
let,
You know,
let
so
me
I'm
let,
not I'm not gonna be the bad guy right here.
let me be the bad guy for you. This is time for this conversation to end. People probably
So before you go, Chris, I
yeah.
just want to say to you, man, thank you for coming on the show. It was for me a pleasure to watch you in your career. I didn't see it from your start, but I watch you progress as the years go on. I also see a young man at that time settle into Fort Erie, settle into what you call home, and also embrace what you were doing. You didn't try to come to like we in Ontario, but you didn't try to bounce over to Woodbine just to ride 2, 3 races and can't win. You knew what was up, and that's what I respect you for. And I respect Rocco and any other person who recognizes those things. You gotta eat. You gotta make sure you're doing what you think is best. You're not trying to chase clouds. So I want to
Respect.
commend you, man.
Yes. I advise the writer, do what's best for you. Don't let people tell you where you should be.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's great.
Well, thanks for having me. And Sean and Headley, I'm going to send you all a bill and leave everything good.
All right, my man. Thank you
Thanks a lot,
again.
Chris, man.
All right,
Appreciate
guys.
it, man.
Okay.
Right.
Great. All right. Well, I think we've learned a lot tonight,
Uh,
as as usual on this show. People tend to speak very freely about their life, their experience, and I think we're blessed to be where we are right now to get these type of conversations from these guys.
yes, I definitely feel so, and I think it's a lesson too for guys and for every time somebody else comes on the show, there's always something to learn, and for Chris, I think there's a lot of lessons that jockeys can learn, people themselves can learn. Yeah, like this man said he rode 5 races. I said he said when he was in Barbados, and then he came here or
Right.
something, right? And then and to come here and to be noticing right away that his brother Ricky was like one of the best in terms of writing at Woodbine, and wasn't being the top guy and all that stuff. And he started to pick up, and learn and observing and just start to see, and there you go. He got frustrated, he made some moves, went to Maryland, learned a lot from those competitive Americans. Uh, then he decided to come back to Canada, and he thought that by coming back to Canada after riding in Maryland that he would be recognized and realize things didn't really change much, but he was still learning, still observing. And he took his tack and went down to Fort Erie and start building, start trying some things out, stop listening to trainers and start doing his own thing and, start evolving. And then opportunity just landed right there in his lap,
Yeah,
and he just
yeah.
took it.
And you won a lot of
So
races in Fort Erie, a lot,
I know.
a lot of races. You might have
So
won
I,
around
I
1,000 races in Fort Erie alone.
So I think is a lot that young jockeys could learn from those experiences, recognizing that not every um, opportunity is the right opportunity, but you still got to take the opportunity. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting hearing Chris's story, and it was awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah, 'cause that's one thing in North America. You have to have people backing you. You don't make it unless you got 10 people backing you, man. You know what I mean? You gotta have hundreds of people and horses backing you to last you. I mean, I always see that with Patrick. You know what I mean? He always lasts long because he's so deep in horse flesh, and not everybody has that. Some jocks by the time the end of summer comes, their stables are done. You know,
Hmm.
It's very grunting. So there's a lot to learn, man. It's a lot to learn. It's not the same kettle of fish that if you're here in Barbados. When you get out there, you realize that you either get with the program or come back home. Simple.
Well, for me, I took away from Chris's story the story of the horse that got away from them
Yeah.
and went to the Breeders' Cup, and also for him to just casually talking with Todd Pletcher. Um, for me, I'm too big to be a jockey, anyways. But um, I think that young fellas could really take those stories and start to really work with them, because again, coming from Barbados, the 5 races under his belt to where he ended up, and now he's still going ownership, and he's talking about ownership of homes and all these things, and realizing that it's still a bigger picture, the 1 or 2 races and being happy and excited, that's not it. We still got life to live. We still got kids to grow, and channel them into the right direction, evolve as men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's
I
right.
really love listening to these guys, and I really love hearing from these jockeys too, because jockeys are not big guys, but they're so powerful because they can control horses that weigh lots. You know what I mean? And still be in the spotlight, and
Right.
make some people very happy, make some people very angry, but you know how it goes.
Well, only sometimes.
Is there anything else
Okay.
you want to talk about, Sean? Because I know this
Well,
weekend is a big weekend for you.
I mean, we have Rocco and Barbados, which is special. I mean, anytime you get guys of that caliber come to the island to showcase their talent, is a big thing. And I'm hoping that he has a successful day with our horse, Jockler. Um, we'll see how it goes. She's she's Jockler. She's training well.
Nice, nice. Well, on that note, I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks for viewing as usual, and join us again next time. Maybe do this all over again. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. We aim to please.
That's right. That's right. Good night, brother.
All right. On that
All
note,
right.
we out, man.
Good night.